morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council meeting for Friday, May 25th, 2007. Welcome to John Ferraro Council Chambers in room 340 of City Hall, where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday of the week, except for the first Friday of the month, in which we meet in Van Nuys City Hall in our efforts to bring City Council closer to all Angelenos. I'm Council President Eric Garcetti, and I'm joined by my colleagues Wendy Gruhl, Tom LeBonge, Jan Perry, Bill Rosendahl, and Dennis Zine. I'd like to ask other members who we are awaiting to make their way down to council chambers. Councilmember Tony Cardenas is excused today, but otherwise we expect a full complement. So Councilmember Richard Alarcon, if you'll join us, Janice Hahn, Jose Huizar, Bernard Parks, Ed Reyes, Greg Smith, Jack Weiss, and Herb Wesson, if you'll make your way down to council chambers. We're broadcast live on Channel 35, and we want to welcome our viewers on Channel 35. Where we are broadcast live and then rebroadcast each evening through the city's cable system. We are also available online through the city's homepage at www.lacity.org, where you can catch live streaming video of our webcasts, and also you can pull down on demand any of our past council meetings. Finally, you can use the telephone and listen to our council meetings by dialing 213-621-CITY, which is a way to listen in on our council meetings as well as our committee meetings. If you'd like to fill out any speaker cards on items that are agendized today for public comments, you can get the cards in the back and hand them to one of the sergeants at arms, and we'll make sure you get that in the queue. And lastly, if you have general public comments on items under our jurisdiction but not on our agenda, you can also fill out a speaker card, and we'll make sure that you can be heard. if you live closer to Van Nuys, lastly, we can hear you via teleconferencing in Van Nuys when we meet here downtown, so feel free to avail yourself of that. While we are waiting other council members, each Friday we honor members of the community and our city family who have done notable things or who are retiring or who have honored the city with their work. And I'd like to first recognize for the first presentation our Assistant President Pro Tem and Council Member from the 9th District, Jan Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I have a very special presentation today, actually 2 special presentations. But first, in a galaxy far, far away, in a place we call Los Angeles, 30 years ago, the first of what has become a well-known cinematic saga was born. And I'd like to ask the individuals from Lucasfilm to come join me here at the podium. Don't be shy. Today we celebrate what has become one of the most beloved action movies of all time. And it is with great pleasure that I welcome, are you Howard?
I'm Howard.
Howard Rothman, and you don't look like John. No. So you must be Lynn Hale, on behalf of Lucasfilms. They join us today to help us celebrate the 30th anniversary of the original release date of Star Wars, which premiered in limited release here in Los Angeles. This epic 1977 space fantasy film has become one of the most beloved and acclaimed motion pictures in history, capturing the imagination of fans worldwide across multiple generations over its 30-year history. Who doesn't love the lovable and comic antics of C-3PO and R2-D2, or the romance of Leia and Han Solo, or the father-son struggles of Luke and Darth Vader? For those of you who are paying attention, Anakin Skywalker. Star Wars and its creator, George Lucas, initiated a renaissance in the movie industry, helping redefine and advance the arts of cinematic storytelling and motion picture visual effects technology. In honor of this extraordinary film, Lucasfilms will be hosting the Celebration 4 convention, the world's biggest Star Wars party ever, at the Los Angeles Convention Center this weekend. Los Angeles is proud to host this truly memorable celebration, and in honor of this, the Los Angeles City Council has adopted a resolution to declare it Star Wars Day in Los Angeles today, May 25th, exactly 30 years from the date when it first premiered in our city. The convention is expected to draw tens of thousands of Star Wars enthusiasts from around the globe and promises to be a fun-filled event for the entire family. And I do hope that all of you will take the opportunity to attend the Star Wars festivities and partake in the celebration of a film that has had an enormous impact on fans, the film industry, and the world. And thank you. May the Force be with you. You want to say a few words?
Well, on behalf of George Lucas and Lucasfilm, we just want to say a deep thanks for this recognition and honor. We're kind of in the Star Wars business every day. We see the way that it's touched people's lives, and it's great to have this type of recognition, and we're really looking forward to celebrating with a lot of people from Los Angeles as well as people from all around the world. It's remarkable to think that 30 years ago people were lined up outside of Grauman's Chinese Theater, or what was then called Grauman's Chinese Theater, to see this movie that nobody knew about, and 30 years later it's a complete cultural institution and landmark, and we're very happy to be here in Los Angeles to celebrate it. So thank you very much.
What's the name of the battalion?
The 501st.
Oh,
Yes.
I have to say that I was at an event down at the Science Museum, and I promised the man that I wouldn't tell his boss, but I met someone who'd made his costume, and he said he was a member of the 501st Battalion, and he was completely dressed down in his battle uniform and complete with a weapon, and he walked up to me and he said, "Hi, Jan, I'm so-and-so." And I said, "Really?" You know, and I said, "Yes." And he said, "Don't tell my boss I'm dressed up like this." And I said, "Well, don't worry, because I can't see who you are anyway, so I won't be able to tell your boss." But it's just an example of the devotion that Star Wars fans have to the lifestyle, that they will invest their money and their time in making their own costumes and going out and volunteering at public events
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it wasn't a real weapon.
No, no, no. I didn't. Yes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you, and we tried, Ms. Perry, to get Mr. Labange to put on the Darth Vader hat and speak, but he wouldn't do it. But right over there. I think it's Mr. Weezar's, actually.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, there you go,
oh
Tom.
there.
Okay,
I hope it's big
come on,
enough.
put it on, Tom.
Good old Tommy.
Let me get the LA Times here first. Hold on.
Yeah, LA Times, we need them. Where are they when you need them?
I know.
Oh, it's kind of a tight fit.
Hey, there you go, right there. Got it right there.
Wait a minute, let me get it.
Got it right there. All right, there you go. Now, how much to the favorite charity was it, Mr. President?
$50 to your favorite
$50.
charity.
Thank you very much.
You got
I
it.
appreciate that.
Tom, let me get one.
All right, thank you very much,
Thank
Mr. Labange. Ms. Perry, for a
Thank you
second
very much, Mr.
presentation.
President. I just have one more. We have a very special lady here today with her family. Her name is Lois Pace Bailey. Where's your mother? Is your mom going to come up? Okay. And I believe she's also a good personal friend of Mr. Wesson. Yes, okay. If you want to come on up here, Mr. Wesson. And I love recognizing city employees, but she's also my neighbor. And we both look a lot better than we did when we saw each other this morning. It's a pleasure to recognize Lois Pace Bailey, who after 22 years? 20, all right, we'll round up. 20 years of dedicated service to the people of Los Angeles is retiring. In her 20 years of city service, she has enjoyed a steady rise through the ranks of the Workers' Compensation Division of the Personnel Department to her current post as Workers' Compensation Administrator 2 in charge of the entire division. As chief of the division, she's been intimately involved with the changes in the workers' compensation system since the landmark state reforms mandated that more than $50 million be returned to the city's general fund over the next 2 fiscal years. Lois's retirement is bittersweet for her colleagues, as I'm sure and I know that they will miss her energy and her enthusiasm and her incredible work ethic. I know that they will take some comfort in knowing that she will finally be able to do things that she's not been able to do because of her demanding career, such as taking interior design classes and traveling with her husband, Don Bailey, who is here and is also a former LAPD officer. So I wanted to personally thank her for her 20 years of faithful service to the city and extend to her on behalf of all of us the best wishes for a well-deserved retirement. And before she speaks, I just wanted to make sure that you realize that she's well represented with family members here. And if I miss anyone, I know you'll take care of that for me. Of course, she's standing here with her mother, Cheney Bass? Cheney Lee Bass, who is 92 years young. And of course, Don Bailey, her husband, LaShondra Pace Bass, her daughter, Jean Williams, a sister?
Yes.
All
back
right.
there.
Vervan Chapel? Cousin? Oh, boy. Lee Nelson?
Cousin. She's back there from Chicago.
Jasmine Bonner?
Niece. She's back there.
The young man in the blue shirt.
Oh, Francis Boss, my son-in-law.
Okay, Francis Bass, son-in-law. Did I miss anybody?
Got everybody.
Okay, got everybody. All right, so let's hear from Mr. Wesson first, and then we will hear from the lady of the moment.
Well, thank you, Ms. Perry, for honoring a dear friend of mine. She and I worked together in the county of Los Angeles when I was young. She's still young. We were in the workers' comp division, and I can remember we were on Adams and Grand in this big, old, ugly, raggedy building, but for 5 years we did it. Everybody that ever knew Lois considered her a class act. She was classy then, she's classy now, and she will truly be missed. But I'm happy for her and her husband because they can do things together, and if there's anyone who deserves it, it's Lois. And Lois, I will not tell anybody who's listening on Channel 35 about the Scoop magazine when you were in the bathing suit. Now, I will not say that caused you... I tell you, for about 2 weeks at the office, everybody had that little picture on their wall. Anyway, you deserve it. I'm happy for you. It was good to come back and work with you again, and I'm going to really miss you. You're just a good human being. You deserve this and much, much more.
Thank you so much.
We also have someone, our friends here and colleagues from Personnel Department. I
Ms.
don't know
Perry,
that you can...
one other council member wants to
Okay.
chime in as well.
Okay.
Mr. Zine?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to acknowledge Mr. Bailey, who I spent some time with LAPD. He went on to the private enterprise. So when you see those golden arches, think of Don Bailey, because he's a man who owns many golden arches out there. And I don't mean the retirement golden arches. Lois, you've been a dear to work with. $50 million you've saved. I know you spent a little time at the Sheriff's Department, came over to the city. When you'd come to the executive sessions here where we talk about those work comp claims and the questions would come up, why doesn't the fire department knock down work comp claims? Why doesn't the fire department knock down work? The fire chief's not even paying attention. There he goes. I knew he'd be paying attention. But all the issues that you've dealt with over the years, I know you're going to enjoy the retirement. Don, I know you're going to take care of the lady. I know you got the place in Las Vegas, and you'll be at that table rolling those dice. I know all about it, baby. I know all about it.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you.
But it's okay, because you both earned those the ways in life when you can enjoy all the blessings and all the activities and all the work that you both put in. But it's been a pleasure working with you, and I both wish you both well. I know that you're not going to be too far from the golden arches, Don, because you got to make sure that the cash register keeps chinging. We got to keep sure that that's on, and I hope to see you both down the road, and happy times in Las Vegas. So bless you both and your family, and it's great to see you all here to show that love and support for a lady who's given so much to the city of Los Angeles, to the county of Los Angeles, and I'm just happy to say I've known you and worked with you for the last 6 years. God bless you both. Thank you.
All right. Tell him who's here. It's hard to see on camera.
Okay. With us today for Lois's retirement is members of
Say
our,
your name.
Tom Coltis from the Personnel Department. With me are members of the Workers' Compensation Division who have benefited greatly from Lois's leadership over the years and are very, very sad that she is leaving. While it's a sad day for us that she's leaving, we think it's a great thing for Lois because she will be able to move on and do some of the many things that she has wanted to do. The great thing about working with Lois is that, you know, I have never had to solve a problem ever in workers' compensation because all of them are solved by Lois and her staff. And she has not only left a legacy for us, but left a legacy of well-trained staff that will serve the city well in the years to come. The best thing about Lois for us is that while we've saved a lot of money, she never forgot there was an injured worker at the bottom line, and we have always provided quality care, and we're very thankful.
Thank you, Tom.
I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lot of her colleagues behind us, standing behind her family, and they all look very sad. Okay, so we're done? So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
and
you.
Best wishes.
Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 13 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Gruel moves. I'll second. Without objection, that will be unanimously approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Smith seconds. Without objection, those two will be approved. If we can, before we run through the agenda, we have one public speaker card on 18 in Van Nuys. If we can take that up, we'll go to Ms. Miriam Fogler on item 18, please.
Mr. President, that is actually for the special meeting.
Oh, is it? Okay, can we call the roll for the special meeting then, please?
You wish to recess the regular?
Yes, please. We'll recess the regular and please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 13 members present and a quorum.
All right, if we can take 18 out of order, there's been a request by Ms. Perry. We do have one public speaker card on that. It's Miriam Fogler out in Van Nuys. Ms. Fogler, good morning.
Yes, good morning to you. I'm very upset and disturbed about this because what you people are doing is putting the city in danger of losing a considerable amount of money by making the CRA the big richest empire in the world because the people are the most richest people in the world, the taxpayers, and of course, you don't have to be accountable to the people because you have Prop H, which your salary should be tied to the public voters every single year, just as you do with the city workers and the police and fire, with the negotiations going on with the unions. The thing about this is, how dare you sell this property for $1 to the CRA? This is illegal and criminal and unethical and immoral. You have no right to do this. And this is very, very bad thing you're doing. And I hope that all of you 15 people, who any of you vote for this, shall be recalled. You should not be in this office, because this is totally what you're doing is you're using this, you're doing this because you're getting contributions from these developers who work for the CRA. That's what you're doing. And I know that somebody told me that my council person got $300,000 in contributions from developers. That's why you people are working for these big projects, Ranalu projects. That's why you're putting in all this stuff, and the poor are being affected by this. And the rich are getting richer this way. It's not the property owners, it's not the city workers, it's the politicians who are the leaders of our city and our county and our state and the federal. We are being ripped off, and we need a Robin Hood to take it back. Because this is what you're doing, is you're taking everything away from the middle class and the poor, and you're giving it to the upper rich who can afford to rent a place for $3,000, $4,000 a month. That's what you're doing under the CRA, and only have 20%. That's bogus, because then those people don't get to keep it.
That closes public comment on this item. If we can open the roll on 18, please. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. And if we can call 19
President,
special.
forthwith?
Forthwith without objection?
Yes. Thank you.
And if we can call 19 and 20 special and continue that into the regular agenda and run through the agenda, please.
On the regular agenda, items 1 through 9 are street lighting district items, notice for public hearing.
Okay. And does anybody wish to call those special? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open the roll on those, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Items 10 and 11 are items for which public hearings have been held. A communication has been submitted on item number 10.
Okay. We have one card, but we already had the public hearing on that. So that
Actually,
will...
Mr. President, since it is a communication, public hearing was not satisfied.
Well, let's go ahead and call 10 special for card from the public. Number 11, does anybody wish to call that special? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next items, please.
Items 12 through 17 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, we have cards on 14 and 15. Anybody wishing to call the other items special? That's 12, 13, 16, and 17. If not, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, those are approved. We have Mr. Labange is next for presentation.
Real quick, Janice, you want to take it? Come in, just say, Chief Perry, she wants to say thank you. And Albert, get up here quick, Albert, real quick. Just there's, and then
To my firefighters?
Yeah, and to
Well-
everybody. More's coming in.
Okay, Tom Labange has yielded his time to me today just to make a quick announcement, and thanks to a lot of dedicated city employees who were able to come together yesterday and finally capture Reggie the alligator. He is now safe and sound at the Los Angeles Zoo. He's resting comfortably. He's resting comfortably in the holding pool up at the zoo. But I will tell you, we got Albert Torres here from our park rangers. Station 85 showed up yesterday, and we're ready to help capture him. Lou Rapoli, our assistant fire chief down there, was overseeing the operations. We had our recreation and parks employees, Fred Dow, Danny Hughes, Ian Recchio from the LA Zoo was literally on top of him, wrestling him to the ground. But I think at the end of the day, I know we're going to honor our fire department today for other brave and courageous acts with Griffith Park. But I will tell you, this has been a saga for 2 years in the city of Los Angeles, and we've had our share of gator wranglers coming from Colorado and Florida We were having them arrive from Australia next week, but at the end of the day, it was a day that the city employees of Los Angeles were able to match their wits with the best gator wranglers anywhere and captured Reggie safely with no incident, and it came to a happy ending. Once Reggie began to crawl up on land for the last couple of days, we were a little nervous about public safety. We were a little worried about Reggie's safety as well. So this was a perfect ending to a two-year saga in the history of Los Angeles. We spent a lot of money in the city trying to capture this gator. We spent a lot of money trying to keep the public safe at Lake Machado. But again, the fire department, park rangers, 85s, rec and parks, our lifeguards had been out there regularly. But I think we're going to make up that money by keeping Reggie at the LA Zoo. I think it will boost attendance at our LA Zoo, and I think a lot of people are going to want to come see Reggie at the zoo. So I really want to thank all of our city employees for doing a great job capturing Reggie.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Weiss, did you want to add? I think Mr. Weiss wanted to say a quick thing. Please.
We're going to go right here now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Labange, thank you very much for doing this. I've had the real privilege of seeing these folks in action a few weeks before the devastation in your district at a location in my district in the city of Beverly Hills, where thanks to their pre-deployment, their planning, and their extraordinarily quick response, we were fortunate not to see that level of devastation. And we would have been, I don't know how you describe worse, but it would have been worse because it was in a populated area where so many structures were at risk, and in fact 3 burned, but it could have been dozens burning thanks to the men and women you have here today, and my hat is off to them. My hat is off to you, Mr. Labange, because they've had no greater friend here for the past 6 years than yourself. Thank you for honoring the men and women of our great fire department. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiss. I appreciate that. I appreciate, let's give the fire department a big hand there, right here. But we're joined here by my colleague, our colleague, Mr. Garcetti, the President of the Council, who we share the adjacent boundary, who spent many a time. And I'd like Deputy Chief Hillman to come up here from the Police Department to represent the Police Department. He was on scene. Lieutenant, I'd like you, whereas when you come up from General Service and represent General Service, our Chief Ranger Albert Torres is here. If you could roll that right now. At 1:20 in the afternoon, a citizen walked into Station 35, located at 1610 North Hillhurst, and said there's a fire at Griffith Park. As you can see, the fire started at Aberdeen Canyon and just raced quickly through the park. Many heroic efforts were made by not just our Los Angeles City Fire Department, but the great fire department of the County of Los Angeles and agencies from throughout the county and Southern California, as far north as Morro Bay and as far south as San Diego. But as you can see from these fast pictures, give you the image of how fast the fire moved from the merry-go-round area throughout to the nursery, and at night when it changed the color of the sky. And I asked Jeannie to show that picture in a moment. Be ready for that. This is an evening at the nursery and how bright it was with the flames. No damage was done to the homes, which truly is so important as we save life and property. But our dearly land known as Griffith Park, which was the greatest gift to the city of Los Angeles, did suffer great damage in the fire. It will come back. It will come back naturally. It will come back well. Under the leadership of John Muckery, we have formed a group that is organized, working with other federal state agencies to try to meet the challenge of restoring the beauty of Griffith Park in the proper and the most natural way. And before I make formal remarks, I want to call on Mr. Garcetti to make some remarks as well, as he helped very much in this operation. Where I couldn't be, he was in parts of my district, helping me as well at the Disaster Relief Center, as well as the Evacuation Center at John Marshall High.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange, and you're too kind. You were a person we should be honoring as much as these men and women behind us as well today. You were extraordinary in the line of fire, as it were, and I want to thank also all of our city employees. You know, it was 125 years ago this year that Colonel Griffiths came to Los Angeles, and 125 years later, his greatest legacy and the legacy of this city is something that still stands at the heart of our town. It's very much the beating heart of the city and will continue to be. And I want to thank Mr. Labange, his entire staff as well, who was out there, did an extraordinary job. I don't think any of them got any sleep. And a number of members of my staff I wanted to thank as well for spending the time out there. While the firefighters were busy battling and saving lives and property, the police department made sure that that property was safe for people who had to evacuate. And it was really a moment when the CERT teams came out as well to help the average residents, many of who were elderly or disabled, people with their pets, people who had a lot of fear that evening. And I'm really glad that the citizen volunteers and the CERT system was there as well. But it was an extraordinary moment for Los Angeles, and because we haven't had fires recently there, something natural will occur. And I know there's been a lot of talk, and Mr. Labange is really helping shepherd the renewal, but it isn't so much that we have to replant, as he's been saying. The park will do that itself, and we will aid it in its natural process in ensuring that it stays the heart of our city and an incredible treasure. But it's one that could have been completely consumed were it not for the extraordinary long hours, the dedication, the grit, and those images, not just the ones we see up here, but the images that Tom and I saw driving through when there were still smoldering trees and branches and bushes, and you would see firefighters slumped over picnic tables just trying to get a couple minutes of sleep before heading right back into that fire, makes us all so proud to have the finest fire department anywhere in the United States of America. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Garcetti, and I certainly do believe we have the finest fire department. The finest fire department always gets help from other fine fire departments, too. I want to state that Chief Berry, we're very proud of our fire department, and I know you always remind me of relationships with the other departments, the teamwork with the county, the great helicopter pilots, and the great mechanics from General Services who keep those machines running. Let's give them a big hand. They're in Van Nuys out there, and they're going to be honored. I'm going to do a special barbecue for them out there because it's not in the Park District, so I could bring it out there. But please welcome Chief Berry, the Los Angeles City Fire Department.
And Mr. Labange, I think before, we do have a couple other council members that would like to speak.
Yeah, can I just ask a point of privilege? Let us just hear this so you hear a little bit more, and your speeches back will be better because there's so much great information you're going to hear. If I could ask that one privilege, I don't know what rule it is.
Yes, without opposition, we will go in that direction.
Good morning. Thank you. I want to thank Councilman Labange, Councilman Garcetti, and all those of the City Council for supporting the fire department over the years and on this incident. It truly was a team effort among many of the city departments, police, general services, water and power, and many park rangers and many others. So it was a team effort. The cooperative nature served us very, very well, and we're very grateful for the other city departments as well. This was a very challenging fire. It burned approximately 800 acres, a little bit over 800 acres. I think the key issue here, even though there was not a lot of wind, the steep terrain, the erratic fire behavior made this very, very challenging. It took us several days to resolve the issue there. I want to thank mostly the men and women that were on the lines. I mean, I get a lot of recognition, but really the men and women on the lines deserve all the recognition. Many of them are here today. As well as the command team, Chief Rueda, Chief Fry, and many of the commanders that were actually running the incident. I want to thank them as well. Again, it's a very challenging effort. We thank all these city departments assisting us, as well as our regional partners, LA County, Santa Monica, and Culver City, and many of the other fire departments that helped us.
Chief Berry, thank you very much. I'd like to ask if I could, Mario Rueda to come up here, and Chief Fry. This is the deputy fire chief who ran the fire, but the first battalion chief was on scene. He was prepared for a community meeting at Station 82, which is on Bronson Avenue, and he was minutes into the fire as it started and set up the initial effort. Chief Rueda.
I think the chief said it best. It really was a city effort with the multiple agencies that showed up at the command post, the park rangers, the LAPD, General Services, the zoo, because we did think about how we're going to manage the potential evacuation of the zoo, our department operating centers that stood behind us, and the emergency operating center. And I'd like to thank the council for their support in this most recent budget, because the aircraft that we got are actually going to help us, because aircraft and the men and women you see behind me are really what put these fires out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want Chief Craig Fry from Battalion 5. What was it like going up, and what did it feel like? Just express yourself.
It was just one of those situations what we've been planning for, and it was almost one of your worst fears coming true. But to reiterate what Chief Ferreira says, I want to thank the council for their support and the community for their support of the fire department. There's no other fire department in the country that could have called for the resources that we've got. As a first arriving chief, I had close to 400 firefighters working within the first 30 minutes of that incident. That's unheard of throughout the country, and it's because of support of this council and the community that allow us to do that. So with that, thank you.
Chief, thank you very much. I do want to express thanks to the Department of Water and Power and the late, great John Ferraro, who in 1999 pushed through an effort to upgrade the water system for the park, because it used to be on a park system. We got to do that for Elysian Park. Yeah. It used to be on a park system where they ran on the main line. But then acting captain Isaac Burks, push Isaac up here right now real quick. I want a little shout out for Isaac. He was the acting captain of a previous fire at Griffith Park in the mid-1990s that brought to the attention of the dual system, which led to the effort. And I want Isaac to get some recognition, because it's water that helps put the fire department's efforts to great success. Put it out. Good job, Isaac. Okay, thank you. Good. You know him throughout the city. I see Mr. Rosendahl give him that smile all the way. Janice loves him, okay? The great chief ranger for the park system of Los Angeles, Albert Torres.
Thank you very much. I have very few words here, but I do want to recognize my park rangers who have taught me so much through this process and in my career. The small brush apparatus and crew that we run are very handy, very helpful. They have humility and will do what's needed on a small basis. So they're here for the first attack. They're here to assist LAFD and to assist the people. And I also want to recognize Councilmember Tom LaBonge for his efforts, having beaten me to every location in the park. Everywhere where I went, he was ahead of me. And he told me, at the top of Mount Hollywood, when Dante's View was on fire, he told me, Albert, be careful. And that's my message to the people of Los Angeles through this recovery effort. Let's be careful, take it slowly, let's recover it in Griffith Park. Thank you.
Thank you. And Albert, we want to make sure all your rangers stand. Where's the park rangers in the back? Doug and everybody, are they right with us here? Stand up. Give the rangers, citywide rangers, a big hand there. Stand with us. Come on out here. Come on out here. Also, one of the happiest people on earth every day of the year and in the universe, but especially happy that the beloved observatory wasn't touched, is the great doctor of the observatory, the doctor of the universe, the doctor who helps us all, Dr. Edward C. Krupp. Please come forward. Ed, where are you? Right back there. It was the city of San Marino's fire engine that was right in front of your place. So.
Thank you, President Garcetti, Councilmember LaBonge, and of course everyone who worked so hard with council and the fire department. I disappointed much of the media that interviewed me because they thought I should show far more anxiety for the observatory. In fact, knowing the Los Angeles Fire Department for many years in Griffith Park, I knew there was no way this fire department was ever going to let the observatory get in trouble, and of course they didn't. Thank you very much.
Good job. What do you think of that, Ed?
Is that your picture, Tom?
No. Now, this is taken from great friends in the Hollywood community. Someone from the Church of Scientology took this from their headquarters on Fountain, this unbelievable picture, which we're going to ask for to make copies so that everybody gets them there. But you can see this, you know what I think of here? I think of Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire. But I could sing it for you, but I won't. Albert, hold that real quick there. Let me ask also Captain Richard Muskis, I said it incorrectly. Help me there.
Richard Muskis.
All right, Richard. Richard is really what really impresses. Come here, Albert. What was so important, Ms. Gruhl, you'll like this too, on the consolidation of the Rangers and General Services. Some people were concerned about how effective they would be. It truly was effective because you were there. Let's give General Services a please stand up for helping us out a big hand. Captain, say a few words.
I'd like to thank the council for creating the Office of Public Safety out of the Department of General Services. It showed in an effort like this a coordination and a response with all the agencies, the Rangers, with the Los Angeles Police Department, and the Fire Department, as well as the other resources, DOT, that was there, as well as us being able to pull the additional resources that were created from the Office of Public Safety, such as the zoo personnel from their public safety standpoint, helped us to effectively coordinate an evacuation plan and implement that evacuation plan with LAPD and our partnerships. It was a great event, and it was successful. We're glad no lives or no injuries occurred out of that. But thank you so much.
Captain, thank you for General Services, and we also want to thank Gloria Jeff and Jimmy Price from LADOT. Los Feliz was gridlocked. They came, they made it move, and also Mike Hillman ordered in Central Motors and Citywide Motors, which helped keep the flow there, because you know that's a corridor. But some very smart thinking and sharp thinking members of the Recreation and Park staff saved almost $1 million worth of vehicles and moving them out of the nursery, which was destroyed. This is Bertie Grijalva, who's the superintendent of the nursery. If that's the improper title, keep it. It's the proper title. Bertie, say a few words, because you were there, and it was someone from the 15th District, from 64s, saved the nursery there. Bertie Grijalva.
Well, for myself and speaking for my partners as well, I think we're doing just part of our job as civil servants, and we were there because we were trying to save the vehicles that were most important to us, that we use for our jobs, and also the historical buildings that are there. But I agree with Councilman Garcetti. Tom was a true person that should be honored.
That's
here.
we're all here. That's what we're here for, to serve the public. Give Bertie a big hand, and ask all the people from CSY to stand up there. Guys, stand up. Good little recognition there. Al, everybody there. Good job. Hector. Good job. And also, I want to articulate, great job. You're going to be charged with helping work with the direction of just naturally reseeding by nature the park. But we're going to rebuild the nursery because we want to reach 1 million trees, right, Commissioner? Right there, out there. So we're going to work there at that. I also want to recognize General Services right here, if you could stand, because you were supportive. And where's Ken? Where's Ken from ITA? Where is he? Back there? ITA. Turn the cameras on yourself, because the communications did not go out of Vermont Canyon, and they had to bring a satellite truck in and had a satellite at the observatory to shot it down to the Greek Theater so they could communicate. Give ITA a big hand for that there. Now, I do want to show this one other fire here, right here, that we have right there. Show that right there. On the 30th of March, this same tragedy happened right behind Oakwood. Come on in, Jeannie. Right in here. And the fire department did a wonderful job in stopping this destruction. It just goes to show what how dry the brush is there. Let me hold it up so you don't, it's those guys right there. You can see it right there. But how that is. And also that other picture, if we could just see that other photograph right there, which is so important to see the great work of the helicopter pilots from the city and county of Los Angeles right there. That transmission line runs through Griffith Park, and the great work. I'm going to salute you all individually in the back room, but I wanted to bring you publicly before the council. And I know Mayor Villaraigosa is very proud of your work. He was out there with me almost all the time, and Eric, and helping. He'll be out this afternoon with Mr. Muckery to announce the next stages of plans as we make the park safe and open up as much as we can. And I know some other members want to speak, so I want to return it to the President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Ms. Perry, followed by Ms. Hahn, and followed by Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to also say thank you to all of you who are standing here, all of the firefighters, the police officers, and to Albert Torres. I wish we could clone you. There's just not enough Rangers. There they are. They're cloned. Yes. No, but you know, I mean, Albert is one of the most quiet public safety employees we have because he has an enormous area to cover. There's not enough Alberts in the world to handle the issues that not only he handles on a daily basis, the stress of policing the parks on a daily basis, and then this. But no, it's an incredible example of us all coming together to take care of the families who live in our city. And Tom, you know, I was watching the news that night when it first started, and as you know, you and I both know, there are a lot of city employees and members of our city family who live in the area that was evacuated. And I'm sure just like I was, you were probably on the phone checking on people to make sure that they got out. And the information that you presented on the news stations was extremely helpful. The maps were helpful in making sure that people got out and got out safely. And I just want to say that I'm very, very grateful. I drove up there afterwards, and it was very touching to see the neighbors out there feeding the public safety personnel, the firefighters, police officers, and just chatting with them quietly once the fire was in control. And I just have to say thank you, because that was just really terrifying. And hopefully it won't happen again. But because of all of you, we're safe. Griffith Park will rise again. And thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Perry. I know we're having a joint meeting with your committee in the future to discuss the revitalization.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Ms. Hahn?
Thank you, Madam President. I just really want to rise again and thank all of the wonderful city personnel who were involved in fighting this fire, but certainly particularly to our men and women of our Los Angeles Fire Department. You truly were heroes once again. And you know, we're kind of funny sometimes when we think about the fire department. A lot of people just think they're paramedics, or they just respond to those kinds of calls. And it isn't until there is an enormous threatening fire like what we saw at Griffith Park that we remember, first and foremost, our men and women are trained to fight fires. And your training it came into play, and it was incredible how you fought this fire. And that one scene where the firefighters were under the bridge, and that fire, do you have a photo of that, Tom? No, I haven't. That fire, we all watched it so many times on the news, swept over, and you saw the firefighters there as that fire went completely over them. And every time you saw it, even though you knew that they came out all right and no one was injured, every time that was shown on the news, it really took your breath away, which is literally, I guess, what happens when a fire sweeps over you. The oxygen is gone. But that just reminded all of us how dangerous it is, how unpredictable it is, how quick it is. And, you know, you were the brave men and women, all of you, that stayed till the end, stayed till we contained that fire, and made us all very proud, and reminded me, as an elected official, especially during budget times, that it is about what we do to appropriate dollars for public safety in the city of Los Angeles, whether it's law enforcement or firefighters. And it's about their equipment, and it's about them having enough personnel to fight a fire. And I know shortly after that, exactly. And we're going to remember that, and we want to always make sure that funding you is our priority. And was very shortly after the Griffith Park fire that I know we helped with the Catalina fire, and we sent some support over to the island. I watched one of the trucks go on a barge over there from where I live, so I knew you were ready to help another effort in fighting a fire. So thank you again. And Tom, you were amazing. You were absolutely amazing. And every time the news came on, we knew that you were there. You know that park like the back of your hand. You grew up there, you said, since you were 7 years old. You know every inch of that park. And I know the firefighters appreciated your expertise. You're telling them where resources should be sent, and or advising them or partnering with them. But anyway, you were great, and I know we all appreciated that, really. That gave a lot of comfort to the residents of Los Angeles, you and the fire department, every step of the way, knowing that you guys really were in control and you were fighting that fire. We're very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. And you did call out from Station 56, Mordecai Afalo. He was the one who pumped the water from the ground up from engine 56, was under the bridge that you referenced.
Thank you. And I just want to give a shout out to 38s who helped save the merry-go-round, and 64s who helped save the nursery. It was a real thrill to have two companies from the 15th district help save that fire.
Thank you.
Help save those resources.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Madam President. Indeed, like my colleagues, I echo our admiration and respect and obviously the appreciation of what you've done. It's the coordinated effort that is standing right here that is the success story. Be it all the group there, the LAPD on the side, all of you coordinated and worked together. But I want everybody to understand that this incredible professionalism that we saw demonstrated that put that fire out is the support we as a people have as we get into the driest year in the history of recorded history. And just the other day, Chief Barry and I and Councilman Weiss, we were there with the brush clearance issue, which is getting Caltrans to work with our fire department to clean up those common areas, some 50 acres where there is brush. And my appeal to the public out there is to see this as an omen, and that everybody else right now should be looking at their backyards and their side yards and doing all the brush clearing. As you see, a large number of people standing there. We do not have enough people to handle every fire that might come our way, as this fire season has started early already. But what you see here, folks, is the best that LA City has and what it was able to do, and I applaud you all for your coordinated effort. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. And just to add, and thank you, Tom, for your leadership and being out there and living through the, I think, several nights, didn't sleep at all, supporting our wonderful fire department. And this is what makes our city great and unusual, when you have this team effort with not only our fire department, but police department, our Office of Public Safety, the Rangers, all the city departments, and our council members who really roll up their sleeves and help not only save the park, but the homes that were there. And we're so proud of them. And it's too bad that some days people don't recognize what you do as firefighters to save those homes and those communities and neighborhoods. And I know a lot of people are saying thank you to the fire department and everyone else, and to you, Tom, for your leadership. And I know I share in that.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President.
And we have one more. We have one more, Mr. Zine.
Thank you. I just wanted to offer my congratulations to all of you. And I reflect on this when we discuss the budget. I reflect on what you folks have to do every single day. And while we acknowledge you today and all the departments every single day, Recs and Parks, Fire Department, Police Department, General Services, helicopter operations, whatever the case may be, you folks are out there 365 days, 24 hours, every single day, protecting Los Angeles. So that's what I recognize. That's what I remember. And I wish we could do this every day to acknowledge the wonderful work you folks do. And just yesterday, I was driving down Victory Boulevard, and I saw 105, the hook and ladder, at Victory and Winnetka, and there was the engine company, and I saw smoke billowing up. And I started directing toward that area. I saw the helicopter hovering over it. And then they all responded. It was a car that was on fire, and a lot of smoke that was emitting from that fire. And they were, I don't know what they were doing. They were heading in the other direction, turn on the siren red lights, and U-turn and on the way to put it out. Happens all the time in the city of Los Angeles, in addition to all the rescue. But from Chief Hillman, from the police department's aspect, the incident command that we have that works so well, that Tom LaBonge has mentioned, all the different folks have been recognized here. When we discuss budget issues, that's what I think about, is situations like this that happen, not every day, but when they happen, we need to be cognizant of that and give you the support, not only the words, but the financial support, so you can carry out the mission for the people of Los Angeles. You're doing a great job, and I hope this is a very safe Memorial Day weekend for all of you, and maybe get some time off with your family and friends. God bless you all for what you do for the people of Los Angeles.
Members,
thank you.
Thank you. We're going to make presentations to everybody in the back room. I really want to thank you, and as Mr. Zine said, it was an absolute coordinated effort, and I thought that Chief Bratt was there, Chief Barry, obviously the head of our Parks Department, Mr. Buckley, was right there, all the way up and down, Mr. Deaton, and it made a difference in this effort, and no homes were lost, and the people of Los Feliz really thank the city of Los Angeles for that, as well as the other agencies. Let's give them one big more hand as we go to the back room. Thank you very much, Chief Barry and everyone.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Before we go to our next presentation, which will be Mr. Rosendahl, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Reyes for an introduction.
Thank you, Madam President. Congratulations to all our public safety officials. Great job. But Councilmembers, just briefly, we have a guest with us today. He is our equivalent in Tijuana, Mexico. He is a council member. His title is, and I'll let the gentleman. Because I'll be asking him to stand and it will be hard to see him. We have with us today colleagues, a council member from Tijuana, Mexico. His title is Ingeniero, Regidor, Presidente de la Comisión de Fortalecimiento Municipal y Administración Pública. Essentially, he is the president of the commission who handles municipal administrative public improvements for Tijuana, Mexico. He is here to essentially learn more about our systems. He is a former IBM executive, has been working with all the pressures of growth. This is the neighbor right on the other side of the border. We were talking earlier, and we know that issues of pollution, issues of economies don't always know boundaries. So he's here to learn how we can work together. I want to thank him for visiting us. Ingeniero Mercado, por favor, si nos puede hacer el favor. Este es el ingeniero, un round of applause, please. And we'll be working together, sharing our information as we continue working on our continental issues of growth and development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Madam President. Felicidades, bienvenido. Un placer tenerlo aquí hoy y gracias por estar aquí para seguir comunicarnos para tener un mejor futuro para la gente en los dos lados de la frontera. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. Gracias. To have another item. I'd like to reconsider an item. We don't have to discuss it now before this presentation, but is it appropriate time to do it now, or should we do it after the presentations?
We can do it now. You want to call it special? You want to continue it from my understanding?
Well, we could call it special and
Okay.
see if we could resolve
that was
any
item number
questions
11?
I have. Item number 11.
11, okay. Madam Clerk, if you could open the roll on reconsideration of item number 11, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
That item will be called special. Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much. As we honor our folks in this great city, and we do it a lot because the reality is without the service of our departments, we wouldn't be doing our job. And I'm here to talk about the Department of Public Works, and this is Public Works Week, National Public Works Week. For those outside who don't know, the Department of Public Works is the city's third largest department. It's responsible for construction, renovation, and operation of city facilities and infrastructures. The department builds the city streets, installs its sewers, constructs storm drains, as well as public buildings and service facilities. The department is comprised of 5 bureaus: the Bureau of Contract Administration, the Bureau of Engineering, the Bureau of Sanitation, the Bureau of Street Lighting, and the Bureau of Street Services, with a staff of over 5,800 employees who design and execute public projects from sidewalks and bridges to wastewater treatment plants and libraries. Frankly, it's the meat and potatoes of what government does on the local level, you know. Throughout its history, the Department of Public Works has been involved in so many different projects. I'll just list a few. The LA International Airport, City Hall, Hyperion. In fact, the Braddock Elementary School went to Hyperion yesterday to look at that facility. The Tillman Treatment Plants and North Spring Street bridges, plus hundreds of major public facilities and systems throughout the city of Los Angeles. This week, which is the theme, Public Works Moving Life Forward. Throughout this week, the entire month of May, Public Works agencies and professionals will conduct special outreach projects all over the city. There will be parades, equipment displays, high school essay contests, open houses, civic organization programs, and media events, all held in order to raise the public awareness of Public Works, its employees, and appreciate with confidence what they do in improving the quality of life for all of us. You know, there's a 311 number. If you don't know about it, folks, you got to know about it, because the city's 311 is how you access public works. 311 for sanitation, bulky item pickup, graffiti removal, street lights, or pothole repairs, among the 1,500 non-emergency city services that are available. I urge our residents to use that 311 throughout the year. The operators are available 24/7, and they would work with you to do what needs to be done in the great city. But it is an honor to have Cynthia Reyes, who is the President of Public Works, who will make a few comments as well. Cynthia.
Thank you very much. It's my honor and privilege to serve as president of the Board of Public Works, and it's a true family, and it's a great environment to work with. And I have several of my colleagues joining me today. I have Commissioner Paula Daniels, Commissioner Dave Sickler. I have our Board Executive Officer, Jim Gibson, and our Public Affairs Office, Cora Jackson Fawcett. And I just want to stand here and say thank you to the City Council for your partnership. I have the honor of representing almost 6,000 Public Works employees that work very hard on a daily basis. And as Councilmember Rosendahl indicated, this has been a week-long of events, and on Wednesday we actually had a Public Works talent show, and Councilmember Perry was gracious enough to come down and present the prize. Today, after I leave here, I'll actually be going to a barbecue with our wastewater treatment workers to honor them. So I just want to thank the council for their partnership and for this recognition today, and I'm very honored that we're receiving this award. Thank you very much.
Let's give Public Works a round of applause, everybody, for what they do for all of us. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. And as you have said, and others, our Public Works Department is the one that where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, in our communities, our neighborhoods, and you do a fabulous job. So congratulations. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Councilmember Smith. Excuse me, Mr. Smith.
It was on and then off, so thank you very
Yes.
much. I very much want to rise in recognition of our Public Works, the board, and all the departments. As former chairman of the committee, I had a great working relationship. And I know, as having worked around here many years, that the energy and the ideas and the things that are being promoted now through our Board of Public Works, through all the bureaus of the Board of Public Works, have been the greatest in the history of the city of LA. You were challenged on water and TMDLs. You were challenged on wastewater. You were challenged on trash. You were challenged on streets. You're challenged now on lighting issues. Every bureau of that, the Board of Public Works has been challenged with really significant issues to deal with. And this board and the previous board have stepped up to the plate and come forward with a lot of great ideas, a great new movement. And I got to say, in my now 27 years, I think, around this building, something like that, I have never seen more innovative, creative approaches to the problems of Los Angeles than have come out of the Board of Public Works and the 5 bureaus of the board in the last couple of years. So congratulations to the board and all the general managers. And I said it at the hearing on the budget recently. I think the managers you have in the Board of Public Works right now, your bureau chiefs, are the best in the history of the city of LA. And I think some of the best general managers we have in our city are right there over in the Board of Public Works. Congratulations and good luck on this week.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Congratulations, everybody. And with that, we'll recognize next from the 10th Council District, the Honorable Herb Wesson.
Good morning, Mr. President and members. It's my pleasure to present to you an individual that many of you already know. He's a famous fashion designer. I'm going to try not to butcher your last name. It's Christian Auduger.
Yes, sir.
That is a cool name. In my next life, Herb Christian Oduje III. Yeah, that sounds good. Anyway, you see his work everywhere, from the designer trucker hats to T-shirts that are worn by everyone, including the rich and the famous. One of his most famous customers happens to be Paris Hilton. I don't think in a few weeks she'll be able to wear the T-shirts, but she is very rich and she's very famous. He was the head designer at Von Dutch during the time of the Von Dutch phenomenon, and then he left and he had crafted an exclusive agreement with the godfather of tattoos, Don Ed Hardy. From there, he took these very creative tattoos and placed them on T-shirts and sweatshirts and things of that nature, and I must admit, he's got stores all over, but if you want to see a busy store, you go to his store on Melrose and you will see just how many people really enjoy the things that you design. Even though he would be worthy for us to recognize him just for those accomplishments, today we recognize him not for his work, but for his humanitarian efforts that he's done throughout this state, throughout this city, and even down in New Orleans. He has several fans and supporters that are here today. Could you guys just stand up so people can, and let's pan on it. That's a great crowd. I'd like to take you with me everywhere, but I want to just quickly this is one of the trucker hats.
Put it on.
No, my head's a little too big. Oh, I just dropped money. We literally took this one off somebody's back. And this is the logo for the Don Hardy. And lastly, this is a very, very hot T-shirt. Let's give the T-shirt a round of applause. You know, I always like to see individuals who are very successful realize that they have a responsibility to individuals that are not as successful as them. So for every step that Christian has taken up the ladder, he's always stopped, turned around, and help somebody else. I'd like to just rattle off a few of the things. In November, Christian donated thousands of dollars and clothing to the Los Angeles Performing Arts Charter School, along with Tyra Banks and Janet Jackson. Christian also donated money to LAUSD to provide musical equipment for their performing arts program to try to put it back in some of the inner city schools. And for Miss Hahn, Locke High School in Watts, he donated keyboards, sound system, and clothing for their music program as well. In 2007, he teamed up with Sharon Stone. I wouldn't mind. Next time, I will work with you with Sharon Stone and her Planet Hope, and they coordinated. I mean, so many things we just take for granted. They coordinated a program where they provided the resources so that young kids graduating from high school could have a prom and go to a prom. That's a very, very important memory, and again, that's one of the reasons why you're here. He also worked with Robert Shapiro, and they sponsored a drug awareness program at Paramount Pictures, and during or after Hurricane Katrina, he donated $5 on every T-shirt that he sold. Christian, it is a pleasure to have you here. And he's here with his young, good-looking son who is dressed. You're dressed pretty cool too, man. Anyway, with that, I'd like to present you with this resolution from the City of Los Angeles. recognizing your outstanding work, and it's signed by every one of my colleagues on the council. Let's give Christian another round of applause. Yeah, there we go.
And if I may add my good wishes, it's fitting that the most fashionable city council member we have is presenting this award today. And Mr. Wesson, thank you so much for bringing Les Vifs into council chambers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christian.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, Commissioner, distinguished guests and friends, I want to sincerely thank you for this overwhelming recognition and honor. As a young boy in Avignon, France, I dreamed of making my mark in Los Angeles. I came to America several years ago and made Los Angeles my home. There is where I choose to raise my family and where I am building my business. It is here in Los Angeles where I was welcomed as a stranger, where I found an environment where one can become a success based on a person's hard work, talent, and vision. It is only fitting that I give something back to the people of Los Angeles and the city, so that others have the same opportunity that was offered to me. Los Angeles is truly a place where dreams are made. Thank you very much.
Christian.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wesson for a second presentation.
He sounds cool as well. I wish I could talk like that. I really, really do. It is now my honor to present to you 8 young students. The Korean Daily newspaper is one of the largest Korean daily newspapers in the city of Los Angeles. They've been in existence for over 33 years, and for 27 years, they've had an art contest for students throughout the Korean community. And we honor the winners of 2 newly established awards. The Korean Daily decided that they should give out a Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa Award. So 4 of the kids that are here are recipients of that award. For whatever reason, they also decided that they would create a Herb J. Wesson Jr. Award for art. Now, when I first heard about that, I thought the contest was going to be who could create the handsomest Herb Wesson, but it was brought to my attention that that was not what this art contest was all about. But today, it is my pleasure to present to you, and I think we do, elementary school, middle school, and high school. Okay, now, we have from elementary school, we don't have the kindergarten. We do? Bailey's here? Drew Bailey. Where's Drew? Right here, Drew. Everybody give Drew a round of applause. Wave at him, you're on TV, see what's up? Drew Bailey, okay. Ming King from elementary school, and she won her artwork was called Tournament and Passion, and Bailey's was Balloon. Dae Ming Kim, junior high school. Hers was The Hope in My Heart. Where are you? Come up. I want people to see you. Where's the other one? Oh, she's not here. Well, here, you fill in for her. Okay, now we go to, is it junior high school? No, we go to high school. Jian Kang, Meltdown. Where are you, Jian? It's a pleasure to meet you. And these are all recipients of the Herb Wesson Award. Now the Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa Award. Sue Bean M, kindergarten, right behind me. Oh, she's as sweet as a button. You got to get up. Look at this. Give her a round of applause. Anybody bigger than you, I don't lift. That was a struggle for me. Elementary school, oh, and her artwork was called Lunchtime. Anthony Choi, elementary school, his was Birds. Anthony, wave, Anthony. And Brian Park, junior high school, his was entitled Basketball. Mindy Cho, high school, hers was entitled Rural Vision. So why don't we do this? I'd like for each student to hold up their artwork, and then we'll go in the back. This is Drew. Hold it up, Drew. Oops, sorry. You got it? Okay. All right. Anthony. Anthony. Oh, wow. Who's this? Mindy. Hold it up. Hold it up. Give them a round of applause. And then we're going to go in the back, and I will present each one of them with the resolution from the city. Thank you, members, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weston. Our final presentation for this Friday is to be led by Councilmember Bernard Parks from Council District 8.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going up here. I'm joined here today with a young lady that happens to run a very important business in the 8th District. Mrs. Tennell is the Executive Director of Excel Family Intervention. And the reason that she's here today is that on the federal level, May has been designated as National Foster Care Month. Foster care today is in transition, and some people have even said it's in turmoil. Nearly 20,000 youth are emancipated from foster care each year in the state of California, and more than 1.3 million of these children are homeless during some time of their foster care. The issue that now it is such a tremendous issue that they call the foster care program, really identify them as the new homeless in our community. 26% of homeless families are headed by youth from 17 to 24 years of age. In Los Angeles County has the largest homeless population in the nation. Homelessness and foster care are unnecessarily tied together. One of the most startling figures is that 1 in 4 families that are homeless are former foster care clients. In 2003, African American children were most likely to be placed in foster care at a rate of about 49 per thousand, compared to the least likely of Asian Pacific Islanders of 2 per thousand. Concerns about the future of thousands exiting the LA County foster care system caused Ms. Tennell to create the Excel program and provide a high quality of comprehensive, intensive, transitional housing and education. It was founded in 1993 to address these needs, particularly dealing with those that were neglected or abused or abandoned. These intervention programs provide a multi-service agency committed to developing and implementing intervention models that address the needs of children in crisis. Excel is currently in the process of expanding its services to include transitional housing and educational programs. These programs basically are participated with include employment and education. And I wanted to honor Ms. Tennell and also acknowledge that she recently had a significant article published in one of our local newspapers dealing with the foster care industry in the Metropolis Inglewood News, in which it's a full feature on the whole issue of foster care. And so we wanted to honor her today because in addition to being the federal month for foster care, we wanted to declare that May in the city of Los Angeles was also foster care month in hopes that we can draw attention to this issue. In the 8th District, in one of our schools such as Crenshaw, it's estimated that over 50% of the student body is also in foster care of some type. And so We just wanted to highlight and ask Mr. Nail to be here and give you, on behalf of the Los Angeles City Council, honor you in your program for what you're doing, but also to highlight this issue of foster care. Thank you. Okay. Let me get you up here to speak.
Good morning, and thank you very much for this award. It's quite an honor to be here and to even be considered, and I am overjoyed to be here. It's been a busy month being Foster Care Month. Excel Family Intervention Program recently moved to the 8th District. We are now located in the former Marla Gibbs Memory Lane nightclub, where a lot of people are familiar with, including myself. We've been there a year now, and we have a preschool learning center trying to deal with children who are very small and dealing with families who are really at risk. With that program, we are now moving towards transitional housing. It has been a very concern of Excel for the last few years. The numbers are staggering to see the kids come out of high school, and over 50% of the kids in foster care may not even graduate. The homeless population from that, they're usually homeless within a year, and so they're on our streets. So Excel has an interest and formulated NIA House, a transitional housing on 43rd Street. It's a 6-bedroom house, and we're trying to get 8 young women into that home. We have a waiting list, and the home was recently built for us because we have such a concern that our children are on the streets. They cannot get jobs. They have a lot of issues, and we're trying to do our part to make a difference in Los Angeles. And I want to thank you for this opportunity. I have a burden for this because I worked for the county as a children's services worker, Department of Children's Services, and prior to that I was a probation officer for 4 years. I didn't know that position would lead me into this position as the CEO of Excel Family Program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Mr. Parks. That ends our presentations for today. We can now take up public comment at this time. Our first speaker is Jacqueline Richardson. Jacqueline Richardson for general public comment. And then after that will be Marilyn Jackson. First it's Jacqueline Richardson, and then it will be Marilyn Jackson after that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a comment about immigrants here in the city. It's a very short comment, about 1.5 sentences, and it's a complaint. It goes, one group of newly arrived immigrants is...
Could you move the microphone down, ma'am, a little bit? Could you move the microphone down or put your mouth up a little higher just so we can hear you? Thank you.
All right. One group of newly arrived immigrants is for the most part concerned only about their own civil rights and not about the civil rights of other people. And that's the comment. They're concerned about their own civil rights, not the civil rights of other people.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Marilyn Jackson is our next speaker. After that, we'll go to Van Nuys with Sharon Brewer. Good morning.
Good morning, President Garcetti. To Janice Hahn, who represents my area, I have a resolution for the community of South Central. As you know, I'm a graduate of Jordan High School. I had no criminal record at all. My parents were married 45 years. Eleanor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, whose uncle was a grievance interpreter of the courts. My father had his own maintenance business. My uncle was a graduate of Jordan High School. The Honorable Arthur Taylor, who is a Superior Court judge, the first bilingual black judge in California. I'm concerned about the presentation of councilmen in each area, especially in my area. As you know, the President of the United States of America is married. I humbly request that as a resident of Johnstown area, that you consider that the councilman or the councilwoman be married. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sharon Brewer out in Van Nuys. Good morning.
Hi, Sharon Brewer. First, I end up parking by the busway, and I know that Tony Cardenas isn't there, but on the south side of the green fence, it has become a human waste area, and there is nothing but, and excuse me, human shit that is lining that fence, and it's on off of Etna, east of Etna, and on the sidewalk. It has become worse. I took pictures today, so I will have them. Anyway, something needs to be done about that, and again, it's by the Orange Line, by Van Nuys Boulevard. Second issue is Encino Neighborhood Council election coming up June 28th, 2007. I now, after Wednesday, have 4 different election procedures that only one was approved in January of 2007, and the latest one that was given out on Wednesday was last updated on May 16th of '07. I don't understand how election procedures that were approved in January 24th of '07 can now be updated in May. The citywide election procedures say that the finalized election procedures must also be adopted by each elected neighborhood council governing board in a publicly noticed meeting no later than 60 days before the scheduled election. None of these election procedures have been approved, meaning that this election cannot go forward because it's in violation of the citywide election procedures. The other problem is there's going to be major problems at Lake Balboa come Sunday and Monday, especially Memorial Day, with out-of-control parking and just the crowd control that's going to be there. And I wish I could have said something to Albert Torres and asked whether the Rangers were going to be available there on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just reiterate, folks, please to try to abide by our policy for language in terms of some of the abusive and other language. We appreciate the comments you made. If we could do that in less colorful language, that would be great. Miriam Fogler is our next speaker.
Well, I certainly don't want that around anywhere because that could lead to all kinds of diseases, and we need to take particular attention to that. The thing I'm talking to you about now is that I want to focus on that we need people down here, and I'm pleading to the people, the city population need to fill these rooms. Fill the rooms downtown. All people need to come down here and go to the supervisors, go to the state, go to the federal, and scream to the top of their lungs and tell them that they cannot pass these taxes and fees against the public like this. You're violating Proposition 218, even though you say it in it's very ambiguous in the document on the one that you're going to bring up on number 18. There's no public hearings. You have nothing to show for the reasons why you're doing this, and it's in the Department of Water and Power. We're already paying for trash pickup, so I don't know what the reasons behind this, except the fact you want to tax and get the people, let's get them all we can and make ourselves rich. You're doing the same thing. You're making this into a business. You want to be all the rich ones. Don't be accounting for your salaries. You want to get your $20,000 again July 1st. No accountability. Oh, you just have it handed over to you by the municipal judges, probably getting the same thing. While the city workers, our police and fire, who are the middle class, the heart of the middle class, by the way, and they haven't gotten any raises, and you're negotiating with them, and they shouldn't be doing that. They should be getting automatic raises just as much as you've been getting them, and nobody should be favored above anybody else. You're human, and you're just as equal as to me at this podium. You have the same thing as I do, and you better be accountable to God up there in the heavens, everywhere, and in the hellfire, because you better know what you're doing down here, because you're going to be answering to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Damon Sampson. Damon Sampson II, and then Arnold Sachs will be the next speaker after that. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Damon L. Sampson II. I was here last week speaking on certain issues. I'm back again. Last week I introduced myself, told you guys I was a veteran in the military, returned here in 2005. And one of the comments I have for today is that in regards to public works and illegal dumping, first I'd like to thank Valerie Lynn Shaw, the Commissioner, Board of Public Works, and Debbie Kendra, her Executive Assistant. And they were instrumental in helping me clean up an alley near a property that my family owns. I'd like to thank them. I also like to thank Council District 9 Field Officer Brandy Chappelle and Brian Runo from Transportation. They're instrumental in helping me remove some signs that I spoke about last week. One hour parking sign placed in front of my dad's house where he received a ticket for parking from his own house. I'd like to thank them for doing that. Also, In regards to the alley and other cleanup, there's also neglect on the property owners in certain areas, especially in districts 8 and 9. There are property owners who are keeping their properties, not utilizing the upkeep of their properties, and it's bringing the property value down of other people like me who are decent people who are also who are homeowners in this area. And it's a huge deterrent for someone such as myself who has a VA loan to buy a home in those districts. If I step out of my house and the guys next door to me are selling drugs and throwing trash or whatnot in my yard, and I'm arguing and fighting with them, just makes me want to move. I just don't want to live here like that. I try to move back into this area to bring this area up to show my children this can be a good city and a good area. Also, the motorcycle cops should not be giving out citations to people who are on their way to work, who are paying taxes, taking care of their children, handling their business. What they need to do is park in front of those school districts and hand out tickets to people who are running lights and almost hitting school children trying to go to school, rather than give tickets to people like me who are on their way to work, dropping their children off. This is ridiculous with that in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson. Our next speaker is Arnold Sachs. Good morning, Mr. Sachs.
Good morning, council members. Thank you very much. Yesterday, a dark day in the city of Los Angeles. By allowing the MTA to raise the fares in such a manner without having to respond to where the revenues are going. I was wondering, today you spent 1 hour and almost 40 minutes with presentations. How many of the council members were at the MTA board meeting to express their constituents' opinion that the MTA bus fares were too high, or the increases for the fares would be too high? How many people stepped up to the plate for their constituents on this matter? According to what Councilman Rosendahl said, we need to do our job by dialing 311. Where are the revenues going? I've been in front of the city council. Maybe the mayor can answer this question. I've been in front of the city council these past 2 weeks asking about the construction authorities that are being created without having any purpose. Mr. Mayor, you were in Sacramento asking for funds. Please, what's the purpose of these construction authorities? Why is the East Line extension being built for over $800 million without a construction authority? Why does the Expo line need a construction authority if the East Side Gold Line extension doesn't? What's the funding into these? If you're going to lie about the use of the money, then we might as well have a new shoe construction authority for all the members of the city council. Also, regarding the increase for the fare, does that mean that the members of the MTA board will get a pay raise because they have bus passes that are given to them gratuitously? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs.
Again, I reiterate, a dark day in L.A.
That's our last comment for public comment today. If we can return to the agenda, Mr. Parks has asked for 20 to be out of order. Is there any objection? Seeing none, we have some speaker cards on this one. Mr. Parks, do you want to take the speaker cards first on this? Okay. First, we have in the San Fernando Valley, Sharon Brewer.
Hi. What I wanted to take and address by this is just city vehicles being taken home, and this is any city vehicle, in that what happens if, like, when you have an earthquake and the vehicle, if they live in Santa Clarita, they can't make it to where they need to go. Also, what is the liability when these vehicles are at someone's personal home and something happens to it? So I think that they really should look at the city liability, and then also what happens if the vehicle cannot get to where it needs to go because it is not in one centralized place. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Peter Repovich.
Good afternoon. Peter Repovich, Los Angeles Police Protective League. Just to let everybody know, we believe that it's very important for our SWAT officers to have these additional authorities for their vehicles. It's an operational necessity. Safety of the emergency vehicles is critical. Those vehicles have over 700 pounds of gear in the trunks now. If the SWAT officers have their own vehicles, they're going to respond to emergencies in a quicker fashion. And ultimately, the most important thing, it enhances public safety. So I hope you consider everything that's said here today. The chief will be doing a presentation, and we definitely support the department on this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that is our last public comment card on that, so that will turn us back. And Mr. Parks, called special, and then Mr. Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Parks. Under council rules, Mr. Weiss, as chair of the committee, would go first, but
no, but you know, I would defer to Mr. Parks.
Okay, Mr. Parks,
as the maker
of the motion, would be second in line. There you go.
Okay.
And we'll come back to Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. The reason for this motion today is the Budget and Finance Committee has been working with the LAPD for the last 4 years to keep them within budget. I think as a general soft estimate, we probably at the end of the last 3 fiscal years have had to supplement their budget somewhere in the neighborhood of $30+ million from overspending. Just this year, $20 million for over hiring 70 officers and $13 million for overtime. When we had these discussions about take-home cars, and I think we've asked for the last year for the information that was finally given in the Budget and Finance Committee. What we determined in Budget and Finance is that in 2001, the department TO, or Table of Organization, was right at 9,200 officers. Today, on this recent budget, is up to 9,400, just over 94. But yet the take-home cars have jumped from 800 to a little over 1,100. We've been talking about saving petroleum, what's the usage of the vehicles. We're also aware that the council at one time had this authority to issue home garaging and delegated it to departments. When we looked at the issue, number 107 in the budget just recently approved by the council was an instruction that said, instruct the CLA, the CAO to report back to the Budget and Finance Committee prior to July 1st, 2007 on actions necessary to restore the authorities to the CAO for approval of LAPD home garaging vehicles, provide an analysis of the increase in motorcycle authorities, further to, in the interim, impose a moratorium on any new home garaging request and expansion of any motorcycle authorities. That was approved by the council unanimously as of last week. The day after that approval, we determined that before the Police Commission, item number was K on the commission calendar, was a report that was dated April 18th, provided each SWAT officer with a take-home vehicle due to call-out response time. What this amounts to is that officers had routinely and historically been assigned as partners working in a geographic area or living within a same geographic area, drove to work together, and then drove home together. We're now saying after SWAT has been in operation 30 to 40 years, we now want them to have individual cars where they can drive to a location of their work assignment, then team up together, and then go back to their work assignment and drive home individually. This is inconsistent with the guidelines prepared by the council in years past that basically says there's 3 reasons for giving people a take-home authority. Employees who regularly subject to emergency call-outs, command employees whose duties require unscheduled supervision, and crime task force employees whose duty require direct reporting. Those are the guidelines which appear to be far more sensitive as relates to use of vehicles for the City of LA than saying that, as the commission report, we want individual officers. I think it is somewhat interesting that after the expansion of vehicles, well over 200 to 300 in the last couple of years, that were viewed as absolute necessity, we're now talking about SWAT as being such an emergency situation, but they weren't considered in the first several hundred. They were viewed now that we're over 1,100 vehicles to add SWAT as another group of officers. We believe, as we were told at the committee meeting, that if you go through a process and later begin to take cars away from officers, it could create employee relations issue. It's our judgment that it serves us no purpose to issue 30 more vehicles and then wait for the report July 1st, which may then start taking vehicles away from officers. So why would we allow this 6-8-week period to do something that's contrary to what the council approved no more than a week ago? And so that's the issue. We've talked to the department about staying within their budget. We've talked to them about the issue of home garaging and whether it was done within the guidelines of the city. We talked about a variety of things. It seems not to have penetrated. And the issue is that if you look at the language in the budget about accountability, many of those issues were directed because of one department's inability to stay within their budget. That's what about 80 to 90% of the language on accountability. So we have a choice today of stopping something that the council said do not expand on, and we gave that verbal message to the department staff when that language was being created during the committee. We told the department staff at that time, this is a forewarning to let you know what the council's going to do, and that was several days before the report was brought to the council. But yet this item came before the commission. So we have a choice of letting it go through and add 30 more cars that gets us up to 1,150, or we can slow these down and wait for the report from the CLA that takes us to July 1st and then do it in a comprehensive manner. And so that's the reason for the 245. That's the reason for the concern. And yet, when we hear about all of these emergencies and all the things people are going to come in and tell you, realize SWAT has been around longer than some of you are old. And they have found a way to get to work as partners to the crime, to the location, and they've also found a way to get home sharing a vehicle. We do not have the resources nor the money to allow people to work individually for or have cars to be taken home merely for convenience. And so that's the whole crux of the issue today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Weiss, and then Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think I join everybody in this council in thanking Mr. Parks for constantly bringing fiscal issues to our attention. I think this council's level of respect for Mr. Parks' commitment to fiscal discipline is well represented by the manner in which we handled the budget just this week, how quickly we did it and how unanimously we did it, and how impressed we all were with the manner in which the Budget and Finance Committee presented the budget to all of us. On this issue, and I'd like to ask Mr. Teefank and Chief Hillman to come forward, the issue for me is I just do not want it on my conscience if a SWAT officer arrives to a hostage scene late because they were carpooling. And if the department says that's not a good idea anymore, I'm willing to defer to them on that. I'd first like to ask Chief Hillman to go into the substance of the policy, and then I'd like to ask Mr. Teefank to address the procedural issues relating to the Commission's action. If you'll hold my time, please.
Thank you, Councilman Weiss, and good morning to all. Excuse my voice here this morning. The substance of this particular issue is not new. As former Chief Parks has pointed out, SWAT has been around for well over 30 years. There has been a tremendous change in the role and the expectations of what SWAT officers are expected to do. We've taken on the additional responsibility of the port. We have taken on additional responsibilities of the airport. The port alone has required us to develop a tactical waterborne capability that requires officers to carry an additional approximately 150 to 200 pounds of equipment. We've had to develop a climbing cadre to deal with many of the suicidal individuals that we've had to deal with, unfortunately, downtown. Over the last 2 years, we've had several incidents where we've had individuals that have climbed up on cranes, where it's necessitated to have officers be able to climb and ascend into otherwise areas that the fire department would not be able to or qualified to be able to deal with because of the potential for armed individuals in elevated places. That equipment alone requires an additional 200 to 300 pounds of equipment. As has been mentioned earlier, SWAT officers individually carry a basic load of approximately 250 pounds of equipment. Add on to that about 250 more pounds of equipment, and you're up to 500 pounds of equipment, not including weapons that have to be carried in the back of some sort of vehicle. You take both of those officers that are assigned to those vehicles and you add them together, and you're up to almost 1,000 pounds, in some cases over that, of equipment that's carried in the back of the vehicles that they currently drive to work. They've had to take the spare tires out of those vehicles in order to be able to accommodate the equipment of not only the specialized response capability that they're required to deal with, but to deal with the crime suppression capability that they have to have, because they have to put prisoners in the back seat. 50 to 60% of our call-outs are based upon off-hour types of situations. That means 15 hours officers have to respond off-duty. Now, when they respond off-duty in pairs, that means that one officer takes the vehicle, picks up his partner, and approximately an hour to an hour and a half later, depending upon the time frame and the traffic, the officers arrive at their duty site or at the scene of the incident. If they have to stop at Metropolitan Division to pick up an armored vehicle, which 90% of the time they have to do, that takes 2 officers out of the mix from being able to deploy at the scene of a critical incident. I was at Columbine. I'm looking at Virginia Tech. I've looked at Beslan schools. The ability to be able to have individual officers to have their equipment with them so that they can respond from home right to the scene and immediately deploy cannot be overstated. The term operational necessity was used earlier. This is a matter of public safety. Now, the risks that we put the community at, and certainly the officers, when we put over 1,200 pounds of equipment in a vehicle, plus 2 officers, and expect them to be able to operate that vehicle at Code 3 or in pursuits or in an off-hour type of response, is extremely critical to the officers. Our counterparts, the Special Weapons and Tactics Unit within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, have seen fit to give their individual deputies take-home cars. We're looking at a regional approach to counterterrorism in an all-hazards risk type of an environment. For the port, the airport, the whole entire city and the region, having individual officers be able to have those cars in an off-hour capability with 700 pounds of equipment to be able to get to the scene and immediately deploy cannot be overstated. I was personally involved in the tragic events of Susie Pena, and having the ability to be able to call for officers. I went 60% deep into my officers within D platoon to get them there in some type of emergency fashion. And when they have to go pick up their partners and they have to pick up additional equipment, it takes 2 to 3 officers to be able to do that, where one individual officer can drive, pick up an armored vehicle, drive it to the scene, and have all of that equipment there. I'm a local boy. I grew up here. I know the community concerns, and I realize that fiscally we're in a tough set of straits. But we need to have 30 additional home garaging authorities, not vehicles. We'll figure out where they come from internally. But the authorities need to be for those special weapons officers. I can't overstate it enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Just to amplify one point that I think you touched on, some council members have asked me, well, how often does this need really come up? Is this a once in a blue moon thing or otherwise? And if you could just respond to that.
The best way I could describe it is it's an expensive operation. These are low frequency of occurrence events that have extremely catastrophic consequences where life hangs in the balance. Between 50 and 60% of the time the SWAT officers deploy, they deploy off duty. That means that they respond during that 15 hours that they're on call. So it can't be overstated enough that the majority of the time they respond off hours.
Mr. Teefank, can you please go through the procedural background, the procedural history of this matter, so that's clear? Because go ahead. Take it.
Yes, Mr. Weiss. Good morning, council members. Richard Teefank, Executive Director of the Police Commission. At the March 6, 2007 meeting, Vice President Alan Scobin requested the department to report back to them on the feasibility of expanding the number of vehicle authorities within the SWAT unit so that they could have quicker response times. Obviously, he believed that these situations are of grave danger and certainly life-threatening in most of their responses. With that, the department was tasked with preparing a report back within 60 days. The report from the department, which is under discussion today, was received in the commission office on May 1st of 2007. I reviewed the report on May 2nd, 2007. It was to be on the May 8th, 2007 agenda. However, we focused that meeting solely on the MacArthur Park incident, which occurred on May 1st, and therefore it was on our agenda for May 15th and was approved after discussion by the commission unanimously. That's the process and procedurally how we got to this point, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Tiefenk. Colleagues, I was just talking with Mr. Smith a moment ago about the general issue of cars in city department. Actually, I talked with Mr. Smith about the issue of cars in the police department and with Mr. Alarcon about cars in city departments generally, both of which are fair public policy issues, both of which are fair for us to budget on, to comment on, to legislate on, to ask questions about. The precise issue that the commission took action on here, my understanding is a reallocation of vehicles that were already authorized for the LAPD, and the LAPD has decided for operational reasons those 30 vehicles need to be reallocated to SWAT. I do not think it's wise for us to second-guess that judgment.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Smith, to be followed by Mr. Zine, and then we have Mr. Parks as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I appreciate, Chief Hillman, your comments. If Mike Hillman sits here and tells me we need these cars, I rarely would argue with that point. I think Mike Hillman is one of the finest cops in America, and I trust your judgment. I want to put it in context so everyone understands what happened. While we were in the budget session, we looked down at a little chart as part of the police deployment issues, and we saw that not the command officers, which has remained rather constant, but the home garaging authorities had gone up over the past 5 years or so from about 560 something 600 to over 1,100 in just 5 years time frame. And I said to Mr. Parks, what's going on over there? And he looked at the number and said, exactly, what is going on? This is way out of control. The budgetary impacts were really huge. And so we said to the department, stop issuing those take-home authorities and report back to us on what is going on within the department. Financially, this is a tremendous drain. As we look at our fuel bills, we know there's a tremendous drain. What we didn't know is at the same time, apparently, there was a process going forward at the commission to authorize 30 more. We heard about it that very afternoon, and both Mr. Parks and I, when we heard this, says, I can't believe they didn't get the message. Apparently, this was going on a separate track, and I don't think there was an attempt by LAPD to subterfuge us to do anything untoward. It was really they were going on their track, we were going on ours, and somehow the message didn't cross over. I think we need, and LAPD needs to tell us, Mr. Tiefenk, what the heck is going on over there with your take-home authorities. But I do not want to stand here today and say to Mike Hillman that SWAT are the guys we want to stop getting those cars. If anybody is the first attack of LAPD other than the first cops on the scene, it's the SWAT guys that go in those very dangerous and tough situations that need those authorities. And so Mr. Parks and I may differ on this issue. I was happy to sign the motion because I wanted to have this issue heard. I think this council needs to understand there is a problem with LAPD financial management. We've talked about the issue of overtime. We've talked about now the home garaging issue. We really need to reel in this department, Mr. Tiefenk, and we want to see some fiscal controls brought on this department. But I don't want to stand here today and one bit stop SWAT officers from getting those authorities. And if Mike Hillman says we need them, then we need them.
Thank you, Mr. Zine.
Chief, how many call-outs do they get a year? Do we have a record of that, the SWAT call-outs?
I do, just a moment. We have 2007 year-to-date, we have 38 off-hour call-outs. 2006, we had 78 total. 2005, 84. 2005, 84. 2004, 93. 2003 was a banner year, 133.
Now, those are off-duty call-outs.
Those are total call-outs. About 50 to 60% of those each
Off-duty.
are off-duty. Yes, that's correct.
And the duty hours for SWAT, for that platoon, D platoon, vary from day to day?
Yes, sir, it does.
They don't have stable hours like 8 till 5 or midnight till 6 a.m. They vary.
They do, yes, sir.
Based upon the trends of crime patterns and patrol functions, et cetera, throughout the city of Los Angeles.
That's correct.
So they can work day watch one day for a VIP and then work morning watch for some other detail that's taken place. So it's never, in other words, it's never stable. It's always, you call in the day before and find out what you're going to be working the next day.
Yes, that's correct.
So with that and the situation, and clearly from Mr. Smith's perspective, my perspective, and Councilman Parks' perspective, have a knowledge of the Department of the Operations, when you have individuals who want to do a suicide by police officer, as we know happens, they call out SWAT when there's a barricaded suspect, all these different situations that come about. I know that the issue about finances has to be addressed, and I'm reflecting on, we just acknowledged you, we're standing there with the members of the City Fire Department, acknowledging all the wonderful work that was done during the Griffith Park fire. And I think when we tried to hold back some of the equipment, some of the technical equipment, some of the equipment that the department needs to do the function, and then something occurs, and then we're the first ones to criticize and to say, well, why didn't you have that equipment? Well, we didn't have that equipment to get it done because you didn't give it to us in the first place. I don't know about all of the metropolitan officers that deal with the SWAT operations, but these cars you're talking about are strictly for the SWAT, not for all of Metro. In other words, they'll still be teamed up in the different platoons, but if they're working SWAT, then they would be having a solo car. Is that the plan?
There are 60 police officers in D platoon or in SWAT. What we're asking for is currently right now they have 30 vehicles and 30 authorities. All of Metro have vehicles.
Right.
B, C, and E platoons are teamed up 2 to a car. They do not have the equipment requirements or the mission requirements that D platoon has in particular. So we're asking for 30 additional authorities, not cars. We're in the process of looking at reallocating cars, but the 30 additional authorities would give each of the 60 SWAT officers
a separate car.
Individual cars to maintain their equipment. Now, if they would come to work and work a crime suppression detail, one of those cars would be parked at a facility, and the 2 officers would team up and work in one person's car.
But the regular, I shouldn't say regular, but the other platoons of SWAT, they'd still be teamed up, pick their partner up at home, and then respond to the location of assignment.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So the only ones that we're talking about are the 60 that are assigned to D platoon, which is the SWAT operation.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And the delay, as we know, we now respond black and white units, code 3, because of the traffic congestion in the city. And there's no question of delay when you have to stop and pick up your partner, no matter how close proximity they are, to get to the destination. And I've seen SWAT respond, and they're very effective in trying to get to that location as quickly as possible. I think that what we need to recognize is the necessity for this legitimate request for public safety, but at the same time, and I don't know if part of the motion is to have a report back from the commission, from the department, to identify the 1,100 cars and to find out which ones can be removed from that operation, whether they be command staff cars or cars that whatever process takes place. And I think that would solve the issue. I don't, like my colleague, Mr. Weiss, Mr. Smith, don't want to hold back with what you folks need to get the job done. I think it's a betrayal of public trust when we do that. And I think we just acknowledge you, and then now we're sitting here asking you about another situation when you want to do something to do the job to protect the public safety. So I have no problem with approving the 30 that you're requesting, but at the same time, I think it's appropriate that the commission reports back to the public safety whenever we can to say, okay, we have 1,100 cars, we've been able to do this, 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 and Mr. Tiefank and I discussed about hybrids, how we can downsize some of those to save the fuel costs, as we know we're paying more for fuel than everybody else. At the same time, you get what you need for public safety. At the same time, the question is answered, and we commended Mr. Parks on the budget. We got that resolved here in one day. So it's ironic that we commend the fact that it went through so smooth, we got it resolved, and then now the issue comes up. But I think what Mr. Smith said has a lot of merit, that you were going down one track with this, we were coming down another track, and they just seem to clash in the center, and that's why we're here trying to discuss it. So I'm supportive. I hope my colleagues will support. You can get those positions. You can have the officers do what they need to do for public safety, and then we can hear back down the road from Mr. Tiefank and the Commission as far as the analysis that they're going through. I think that's an easy resolution for everyone to follow.
Yes,
Thank you.
You have our commitment, Councilmember, that what we're going to be doing, working with the department, analyze each one of those take-home authorities and see if they fit within the guidelines of the city policy. That report will be prepared through the commission and come to council.
I'm not done yet. Just a couple more follow-up. The Hold Harmless, the Cobra, some of those other operations, are those cars included in this, or are those separate? Like the task force that we have, the fugitive warrants that work with FBI or the Marshall Task Force, are those take-home cars that are really federal cars or state cars, are they included in this count, or is that separate?
So, some are and some are not. Most are not.
Okay.
Most are not.
But there may be some that may be included in that, like none of them would be? So if we're getting a
I don't
federal,
want to say none.
okay, but if we're getting a federal car or a state car in the allocation, I just want to make sure that we separate so you're not being held responsible for cars that are being provided to our personnel who are working some of these joint task force operations.
Well, there are home garage vehicles in authorities right now that fall under major crimes, and major crimes because of their involvement in various other operations would fall into the category that you just described, Councilman. And it's probably a process of doing business because of the agencies that they work with. But they are involved in primarily City of Los Angeles related business that interacts with other federal task force agencies. That's the best way I can describe it.
I know that some of the folks working the fugitive warrants, where I'm assigned as a reserve, some of the folks there have cars that are take-home cars that are provided by the FBI. There's a Marshall Task Force, and they get those. I just want to make sure that those
are
aren't
not home authority vehicles.
Okay, so we don't have to fill out paperwork on that you're being accounted for. In other words, make it a clean, simple system that we're not overloading it, and in fact, you don't have 1,100, you got 800. That's what I'm trying to come down to. So you'll get a report back, and then we can identify that. And as far as the other agencies, what they provide, I'm not worried about that, because that's in someone else's tab.
And we'll also give you a report back on the number of current alternative fuel vehicles in the fleet and the number planned for the future.
Good, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Alarcon for first time, and Mr. Parks for second is still on the queue after that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
Look, to me, it's a no-brainer about the 30 cars being given to the SWAT to take home. No problem. But the bigger problem is I'm on budget, okay? And frankly, we're never sure what we're really dealing with financially from the LAPD in terms of overtime, in terms of the battle with LAX of how many officers we pay for, they don't pay for, and then also a real sensing of those who have taken cars home, the 1,100 or so, for what reasons and so forth. So my suggestion is going to be, and I'm going to defer to Mr. Parks on this one, is that we bring in a motion that have your auditor or your financial analyst. Could you come up for a second? Let me ask you a question or two. You know, when Laura Chick did her audit, she used the word archaic, you know, I mean, and that up to not too long ago, everything was manual, then it got into the computer. Could you give us a sensing just of the issue of the automobiles? How many automobiles are taken home by officers? What categories does it fit within, and so on and so forth? I know there's 3 categories. There's the general rank and file, there's the command staff, and a third group, just to give us some comfort that we have a handle on it. Because where we were offended in a way was all of a sudden 30 more cars go home. Now, obviously, knowing what it is, for SWAT, I think it's a good idea to do that kind of stuff. Could you share with us that data?
I can. What we did
Tell
was
us your name for the record.
Rhonda Sims Lewis, LAPD.
Thanks.
Support Services. We took a look back to 1999, and we went through 2007 up to date. In 1999, we had 768 home garage authorities. And our deployment at that time was about 9,300. Between 1999 and 2002, when Chief Bratton took over, we grew by 56 home garaging authorities. However, we lost 400 officers during that time. From 2003 to present, we've grown by 279 authorities. We've grown in deployment by 400 officers, from 9,100 to 9,500. Right now, we stand at command officers, 118 home garaging authorities, and that's only grown since 1999 by 9 authorities. We have 308 motorcycle authorities, and all others, which would include lieutenant and below, people who are normally on call-outs, who have frequent call-outs, we have 677, which is a total of 1,103 home garaging authorities.
Great. Well, I appreciate having that data. So in conclusion, I'm going to support the SWAT officers getting the vehicles. But I think the overall accounting functions and operational financial aspects of the LAPD need further refining and really bringing it up to the moment we're in today, more efficient, more understanding. The biggest thing for us is transparency and clarity and awareness. And we get offended if things aren't clearly explained to us or done in a way that doesn't make sense to us. That's our responsibility, the public, to watch every penny that comes from the public that goes into the policing services. And all of us are committed to the LAPD to get more officers, to have the best equipment and the training for our officers. So if this motion is going to go forward the way it is, I'm going to vote no on that because, frankly, I believe we need to go forward. But the point we're raising is we need to know more about this stuff. We need to have awareness of it. We need to have more detail. And you all need to take a deep breath about some of your archaic financial things that you've been doing and come into the light of the moment, which is the 21st century. Thank you.
Mr. Alacon is the next speaker.
Yes, I have no problem with the 30 home authorities for SWAT officers for all the reasons previously stated. I also have a problem with asserting authority and jurisdiction over the police commission. In this particular case, there are, I'm sure, rationale why we would do that, but I don't think that this particular circumstance would be a case where I would want to assert jurisdiction over the police commission. But I do have a curious question. How many police officers live outside the city of Los Angeles?
In total, for the total population, I have no idea.
Because I recall when studies have been made on that subject, we have the vast majority of police officers who live outside of the city of Los Angeles. And I'm wondering if perhaps the police commission has taken a look at where these officers are, where they're driving their cars home to, and whether or not we can create incentives and use other devices to get more police officers to live in Los Angeles. And perhaps we could reduce the number of home authorities necessary because they're right in the neighborhood. Particularly when we look at the SWAT officers, for example, is it time that we consider that a job requirement be that they live in Los Angeles? Because if it's so serious that they get to the location in a particular amount of time, that's a pretty radical suggestion, but depending on the facts, it may not be so radical. It may be preferable. So we can, where we are prohibited from requiring people to reside in Los Angeles, as a general notion, if it's relative to a job-related duty, it is absolutely legal to require somebody to live in the proximity of their job. So don't need to get into it here, but I would ask that the commission take a look at, again, how many police officers live outside of the area, how many of those using the home authority are transporting to Santa Clarita and Irvine and all kinds of places, and whether we're bearing the cost for that additional. Maybe we should just give them so much of an allowance in terms of gas, and you know, if they live outside, let them pick up the tab for driving an extra 20, 30 miles. So I would ask that you look at that. But also, more importantly, I think one opportunity that we have to explore further is the opportunity to use home ownership incentives in Los Angeles for police officers to reside in our neighborhoods and not only gain their ability to respond much faster, but also increase the safety of the neighborhoods by virtue of having more public safety people in our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Mr. Alacon. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Alacon, let me just answer your question. About 85 to 87% of the officers live outside the city, so you get some idea. Other thing, Ms. Sims, I just wanted to make sure that we correct one thing, or at least add something to it. You mentioned earlier about the department grew 400, yet there was only, during that growth, there was only a small number of vehicles added. But I think what was missing is that when the department dropped in strength, we didn't take the cars away. And so we have to go back a year and show that the cars maintained as opposed to just during the time of growth. Let me ask Chief Hillman, you made a comment, and you might be able to resolve this for me. You mentioned that you had every intent of shuffling the vehicles within the department. If you could make a commitment that you stay within the 677 that's reported, you solve our dilemma. If that's the whole issue, is that we not go beyond the 1,103. So if you stay within that grand total, then you solved our issue from the committee, and so that we can do our study by July 1st. And so that is something I'm asking, can that be done?
I can't totally speak to that, but I can speak to this, that when I was brought into this and I took a look at the number of vehicles, my personal belief is that we can do a better job of making sure that our home authorities are dispersed to the most critical functions that we have within the organization. And in looking at some of the authorities, I believe that some of those authorities can be redistributed to this 30 additional SWAT requests. Exactly how many of those at this particular point, I have not had a chance to drill down that far to be able to do that. But I can say this, I think that we can reallocate some existing authorities to be able to accomplish this 30 additional authorities. The vehicles we have, it's a matter of taking those vehicles and reallocating the Crown Victorias to the, whether they're dual purpose hybrids, whatever the situation is, to D platoon. That's the best answer I can give you.
Okay. And also, colleagues, the issue of the 245 was us just basically, I think, kind of carried over what many of you said, is to study this because of this basically passing in the ships in the night, that we gave specific verbal direction, we then voted on a direction, and yet these were approved. But I'd be willing in the sense that if Chief Hillman, if you could make us that commitment that we're going to work towards keeping that other figure, 677, that we don't go above that figure any measurable amount while we're studying this, and our overall authorities somewhere close to that 1103 figure, I think we can resolve this and move forward. The other issue that, and I think is part of the study, and Ms. Sims would be able to deal with this when we do the study, we can't find where the 40 additional authorities came from for motor officers. And so we can't find them in the budget. So if we've added 40 more motor officers to the TO without authority, that's another issue that we're trying to reconcile. Not only the take-home cars, but where did the authorities come from? So if we could get that commitment that you work towards that kind of resolution, then you satisfy my concerns.
We will, I'm going to commit to you that we are going to look at specifically that 667 number to see what of those home authorities that we can reallocate to offset this request for 30 additional vehicles.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Zion.
Just to follow up on that, a few years back they cut 60 motor officers. There were 15 from each traffic division that were cut, those home garaging. And I remember being at Valley Traffic at the time, and the different traffic divisions were each reduced a total of 15, which was a 60 number cut. They were never replaced, because I made a motion asking that they come back, and the department responded they didn't see a need to bring them back. So if there's over 300 that are allocated, there's something that doesn't mix with the number that they actually have as far as motorcycle officers. You may want to explore that option too. Some of these may have been home garaging permits pushed over to something else, but I do know when they cut 60, those positions were never replaced, and maybe those home garaging permits are still in place, which could maybe confuse some of the numbers.
We do show a decrease in our home garaging authorities between 2000.
You show a decrease in which one?
In motors.
By 60?
It's about 50-ish, yes.
For what was it before?
It was 281 in 1999, and it went down as low, I'm sorry, it was 281 in 1999, and it went down as low as 238 in 2004, 2005.
What do you have now?
Right now, we have 308.
Well, then it went up.
It went up again after a period of time, yes.
But the report that came back from the department said they weren't going to put any additional motor officers back. And I find it interesting that you have a higher number now than what they reduced the numbers. We asked them to bring them back. They denied that. And then now you're saying they have them back.
We'll take a look at that and report back in our report through the commission.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Parks?
Even file 20 based on what Chief Hillman's comments.
Okay. All right. Is there any objection
second?
to receiving and filing? I'll second it. If there's no objection, we'll go ahead and open the roll. Sorry, to receive and file? No, to close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay. That is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is received and filed. Next item, please.
Item 10 was called special for cards from the public.
Okay. Damon Sampson, second on item number 10.
Here to speak about item number 10. Proposition 12 had a potential to revitalize decrepit urban parks and expand California wilderness. And I'm not understanding how there's money left over for this. When I look at the parks in my neighborhood, I understand some of the money was spent at parks in local urban areas. I don't believe anyone on this board would be willing to take your child and drop them off in any of the parks in South Los Angeles and let them play basketball or let them play without proper supervision from a officer or security person qualified security personnel. And I feel the same way about leaving my children or even myself going to these parks to play basketball or sports or other recreational things that occur at the parks. It's not very safe. I feel like that the money that's left should be put into security in the parks and other recreational facilities. Decent people such as myself refuse to have foot in the parks and neighborhoods. Instead, what we do is we end up going to parks in Torrance, Gardena, other places because it's safer. I mean, just saying it's safer to go there. You got guys that are selling drugs right across the street from the parks, going into the parks, selling drugs, robbing people such as myself to have a little money or trying to just have a good time with their children. You got people begging for money and whatnot, pretty much strong-arming you for money. You just want them, just give them money, you can wait from you and your children, just going to leave you guys alone. The incident in MacArthur Park also deters people such as myself from going to parks because it just pretty much makes us afraid to go there and deal with people. I feel like that the litter is out of hand in most of the parks, and there need to be stiffer penalties on the litter. And the city generates revenue for permits being pulled to have festivities at public parks, so why not protect the people who participate and utilize the parks in a positive manner? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Closes our public comment on number 10. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 11 was called special by Councilmember Weezer.
Okay. Mr. Weezer, item number 11. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Reyes?
I do want to request we continue this 1 week.
Okay.
I want to thank my colleague, Councilman Weezer. We're all trying to meet different priorities, and we have to just look at how we can move through this process. So 1 week would help us out.
All right. Without objection, that would be...
And, Mr. President, just for clarification, that would be the offsite in Van Nuys.
Okay, well, let's make that 2 weeks then.
Okay. June 8th. Okay. Without objection, we'll continue that to the 8th of June. All right. Next item, please.
Item 14 was called special for cards from the public.
Okay. Item 14 is before us. We'll go out to Van Nuys for public comment. Sharon Brewer and then Miriam Fogler on item number 14.
Hi, Sharon Brewer, again on special event fee waivers. Today we have, 13 items, 12 fee waivers, 1 reimbursed the city for a total of $44,418. I'd like to take and basically recap the week in that on 5/22 we had 11 fee waivers, $26,425. Wednesday, 7 fee waivers, $22,852, for a total of 30 fee waivers, $93,695. I have a question about a neighborhood council actually being allowed to do a fee waiver when they're being given $50,000 from the city, and should be using that. The other thing I'd like to bring to the attention of the City Council is Council File 052467-S1, which has is special event motions that actually Mr. Garcetti was a mover, and it says that special events needs to be approved by the council prior to the date of the event for liability reasons. Approved motions trigger the city's liability insurance coverage for the events, and provide authorizations for street closures, temporary parking restrictions, and related actions associated with the special events. Yet you have had 8 fee waivers just today that were for May 19th to May 22nd, which are after the fact. So I would hope that you would take and pursue this council file. Mr. Garcetti, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Miriam Fogler. Appreciate your comments.
Here we go again, going around the carousel. Every single day I come here for city council meeting, there's always these special events that have already taken place. And you think about the liability that would have happened, like what Sharon Brew has said. It's pitiful that you people can't wake up and smell the coffee. You need to stop this charade and get yourselves together. I don't know how many of you are listening to me. I can't see down there. All I can see is myself speaking here on the screen, like you see on Channel 35. This is ridiculous.
We can hear you, Ms. Fogler. Don't worry.
Well, I cannot see how many of the members here are really listening to us, because Sharon Brew she works day and night, and I can see her sitting here very carefully, very precise in what she's supposed to say, because she only has so much time, and so we all here. Obviously, you give you guys an unlimited amount of time, and
Ms.
you need
Fogler,
to be shown
could you talk
accountability.
about the public comments, please? The special events that are on this motion. Thank you.
You guys need to be accountable for this. This is adding up. All this expenditure is why do you need to impose a trash fee on us? This is kind of like saying putting the cart before the horse. It's like the same thing with the police state, the cars. We need to be showing accountability in how the city's money is being spent here. And you can't just give favoritism to organizations just because they're your friends or buddies, or they give you contributions like developers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is public comment on the special events motions before us. Anybody wishing to call any of those special? If not, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Item 15, called special for cards from the public.
Okay. Damon Sampson for us.
I feel that the banners that are being put up is a good idea. However, in other districts, it's not being utilized, especially in districts 8 and 9, where are predominantly those districts 8 and 9 are predominantly African-American communities, and many of these people who live in these communities are homeowners. And I feel that as a homeowner, most of the time we're not really properly notified for certain things that take place in the community, such as council meetings or anything else that's relevant to help out the community. One way to help show this is the banners, which I think is a good idea. Also, the internet access. For some, maybe there could be a way we can be put on a list or something like that. We can get email notification to be able to attend these meetings that take place in the districts, especially in districts 8 and 9, which are predominantly African-American people in that community. I am an African-American male, 29 years old. I am a homeowner, and I know that's rare for my age, but there are people out there like me who like to participate in things that take place like this. A lot of us just don't know how to find information about it, and it would help out if there was something such as a list or something like that. We got email notification, maybe letter put out, something like that or that nature to inform us of meetings and things of this nature. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Sampson, the early notification system, which is available at lacity.org, you can click on a number of neighborhood councils and other community meetings and get regular email notifications. So just look for the early notification system at lacity.org. Okay. Thank you. That is public comment for that item. Anybody wishing to be heard from the council? Seeing none, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Next item, please.
Item 19 was called special for cards from the public, and there is an amending motion on this item.
Okay. Ms. Fogler, on item number 19.
It's a technical motion that's been distributed.
Paying for the recycling and disposal. This program, I knew years ago you were going to try to do this little number on us, and I'm catching you now and putting this on record that this is a criminal and very unethical, immoral act against the public without any hearings, just like the MTA had. This is actually, what you're saying is, you're saying two double words about 218. One is for the 218, and the other one is against Prop 218. I don't know which way it's going. So I don't know why you have to do this, and where is the money is, and why is it being done, and what are you going to do about this? I mean, and why isn't there any people being heard about this?
Thank you, Ms. Fogler. And we appreciate you being heard today on this item. Mr. Smith?
May I just
Sure,
respond?
absolutely.
The motion is to transfer money to print the notices to send to the public to hold the public hearings. And so we are not violating 218.
Thank you.
We're actually complying with 218. And that motion, part of the amendment is to actually transfer the money to the print shop so we can print the notices so the public will be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you for that very useful and important clarification. Let's go ahead and open the roll if nobody else wishes to be heard. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Without objection, send that forthwith. Next items, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those items are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Gruhl requests to be excused to leave at 11 a.m. on Friday, June 8th, and to arrive late on Tuesday, May 29th, both for city business. Those meet council policy.
Ms. Gruhl is excused.
Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused to arrive at 11 a.m. on Friday, June 1st, for city business. A motion is required.
I will move that, and Ms. Perry seconds. Without objection, that excuse will be granted as well.
Councilmember Smith requests to be excused Wednesday, May 30th, for city business. A motion is required.
All right, I will move that again, and Mr. Zine will second it. Without objection, he will be excused. Next item.
Councilmember Parks requests to be excused Wednesday, June 13th for city business. That meets council policy.
Mr. Parks will be excused.
And Councilmember Rosendahl requests to be excused to leave at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, May 29th, and to leave at 12 on Wednesday, June 6th, both for city business, and they both meet council policy.
Well, then both of those excuses will be granted to Mr. Rosendahl.
That does clear the desk.
Okay, colleagues, now is the time for announcements. We'll start backwards. Mr. Zine?
That's good. Start backwards for a change. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day and invite everyone on Monday, 11 a.m., 19th Annual Canoga Park Memorial Day Parade along Sherman Way, starting around Topanga Canyon, going down to DeSoto to Van Owen, and we're going to be honoring our military. So we invite the public to come join us in Canoga Park, All-American City. Hope the town crier will be there ringing his bell. To all the fine military personnel, again, we'll be honoring them this Monday, Memorial Day, All-American City, Canoga Park. Everyone's invited. The mayor is going to be the honorary marshal for the event, honorary grand marshal. So you're all invited to come out and enjoy a day in beautiful All-American City, Canoga Park. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Rosendahl?
Yes, Mr. President. You know, we have a national cemetery here in Los Angeles, if you don't know that, and this is the 118th Annual Memorial Day program. And please join us if you're on the west side or want to come over from wherever you are. Please join us as we honor the memory of the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice to give the gift of freedom to this great nation. We have a special guest speaker this time, Lieutenant General Michael Hamill, who will be the guest speaker. And we also need to note, with a heavy heart, that 1,036 more American men and women died in our wars in both Iraq and Afghanistan since last Memorial Day. 1,036 more. And when we go to enjoy a three-day weekend, we must take it for what it is, in memory of those who have put themselves in harm's way. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. Thank you for your service to our nation. Ms. Perry?
I need to make this announcement on behalf of Mr. Cardenas. On May 27th, Councilman Cardenas and the Japanese Garden will host Faces of Japan from 10 a.m. until 3:15 p.m. at the Japanese Garden, 6100 Woodley Avenue, Van Nuys. If anyone has questions, call 818-756-8166 or 818-778-4998.
Thank you. Other announcements, Mr. Parks?
Yes, I'd like to invite the public to the 8th District Youth Energy Fair tomorrow, 9:30 to 3 o'clock at the Jesse Brewer Park, corner of Vermont and Exposition. This is something that's an annual affair. We're going to have a variety of people from AT&T, the California Public Utilities Commission, Verizon Wireless will be some of the people there, and also our intent is to award about 200 awards to youth that have been involved in a essay contest about energy and also involved with Edison, the Warden Power, and Brotherhood Crusade.
Thank you, Mr. President. This Saturday from 10 to 12 at the El Sereno Senior Center, 4818 Klamath Street, myself, along with Assemblymember Kevin DeLeon, are sponsoring a free safety workshop. It's focused on women's self-defense. There will be informational booths and workshops about women's health and safety. There will also be a workshop on self-defense training. Beginning Sunday, May 27th at 10 a.m. at the Cinco Puntos Pocket Park, which is on the corner of Indiana, Lorena, and Cesar Chavez. There will be a 24-hour vigil of elected officials, veterans, and community members standing guard for 30-minute intervals at the Mexican-American All Wars Monument at the Cinco Puntos Pocket Park. I will initiate the vigil, standing guard for 30 minutes, and Congresswoman Royba Allard will stand guard for the final 30 minutes leading up to the actual Memorial Day ceremony on Monday. The Mexican-American All Wars Memorial was first dedicated on a Memorial Day observance in 1947 by the Los Angeles City Council and Congressman Edward Royba, who was one of the founding members. And again, on that Monday at 10 a.m., we will have the observance with a ceremony led by American Legion Post 804. Also on Memorial Day in El Sereno, 10 to 11 at the corner of Huntington Drive and Eastern, we will have the local American Legion 804 again, along with the Wilson High School ROTC, will present to honor and remember all of our fallen heroes on that day.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Mr. Alarcon?
Yes, I'd like to announce two events. On Saturday at David Gonzalez Recreation Center, there will be a boxing gym open house. That's Saturday, May 25th, from 6 to 9 p.m. And on Memorial Day, we want to invite people to come to the Pioneer Cemetery in Sylmar, where they will have a Memorial Day observance. This is hosted by the San Fernando Valley Historical Society. That will be at 11 a.m. on Monday, May 28th.
Thank you. This Sunday, we will be having a festival in Little Armenia, the Armenian Street Festival, in honor of Armenian Independence Day on Hollywood Boulevard between Alexandria and Vermont, starting at 11 a.m. So we invite members of the public out, and thank you, everybody, for informing us all about Memorial Day. If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise for our adjourning motions. Thank you, colleagues. I would ask you that you join me today. Mr. Rosendahl mentioned the number of individuals that we have lost in the past year, and one of the newest casualties of the war in Iraq is Private First Class Joseph Anzac, who was killed in Iraq after he was abducted with 2 other soldiers. His family received the dreaded news this past Wednesday that his body had been found in the Euphrates River. He was 20 years old and was from the Southland here, Private First Class in Company D, 4th Battalion, 31st Infantry Regiment of the 10th Mountain Division, 2nd Brigade Combat Team. He and 3 other soldiers vanished after their team was ambushed May 12th, 2 other soldiers, about 20 miles outside of Baghdad. His family had held out hope for 11 days that he was still alive, and they endured an earlier rumor that he was dead, were relieved to learn that he was alive after they had received a phone call from him earlier in his time in Iraq. He was a resident of Torrance, graduated here from Southland Schools, and I know that there are a number that had done a number of events yesterday to remember him. He was known as a jovial jock, somebody who always made people who were down feel better about himself, and in his service to his nation, he has now given the ultimate sacrifice, and on this Memorial Day especially, we will remember him. He's survived by his father, Joseph Anzac. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Second for Mr. Rosendahl. Thank you. We'll do all members on that.
I am deeply saddened this morning to adjourn in the memory of Genevieve Reza, who recently passed away as a result of long-term health complications. Ms. Reza is the mother of Pat Shabak Reza, whom I was proud to honor last year as a Pioneer Woman of the Year. Genevieve Reza was born in Kansas City, Kansas, and moved to Boyle Heights seeking a life of opportunity with her only child, Patricia Shabak Reza. She was a single mother who, as Pat tells it, instilled in her daughter the principle that it only takes one person to make a world of difference in another person's life. Thanks to her mother's inspiration, Patricia Shabak Reza now serves the community through her involvement in various at-risk youth programs and is in the process of establishing her own nonprofit in Los Angeles. Genevieve Reza set an example not only to her daughter, but to all the residents of the city of Los Angeles with her positive message of giving back. She will be greatly missed. Mr. President, I also have another adjourning motion in the memory of Alva Sandoval, who passed away in her sleep on May 16th in her home in Ramona Gardens. She died before her time of kidney failure. She was only 53 years old. Alva had served as a recreation assistant at Ramona Gardens Recreation Center until last year when she lost her leg and was disabled. She was a hard worker and never gave up, even in the face of this great adversity. She was always volunteering her time to help out her church and her community. She was known as a very good cook, and she often cooked in the church kitchen for special events. Alva Sandoval was a beloved mother of 5 children, grandmother, sister, and mother-in-law. Alva will be remembered by her family and friends as a strong woman who loved life, and she will be missed.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier this week, we adjourned in memory of Yolanda King, and just for the community's awareness, her funeral was held yesterday at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. But Thursday, May the 31st at 7 p.m., Faithful Central Baptist Church, under the leadership of Bishop Ulmer, will be holding a service at 7 p.m. in Inglewood at 321 North Eucalyptus Avenue at the Tabernacle. And so anyone interested, community, there will be a local service in her honor.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, just to restate again the passing of 1,036 Americans in the last year. And I might tell you that in April of this year, it was 104 Americans who died, and just now in May, it's at 90, but the month isn't over. It's an ongoing war, and we need to reflect and remember everyone who's put themselves in harm's way. 2 particular people, not related, I'd like to discuss right now. Tarnik Kappen Russ, R-U-S-K. Sadly, Tarnik was taken from the community by a drunk driver. He was killed. He's only 31 years old. He was born in Liberia on December 1st, 1974, to a Lebanese father and a German-Irish mother. The oldest of 3 children, Tarnik attended UC Santa Cruz before transferring to UCLA and graduating in 1988 with a degree in sociology. In 1995, he went to the Mar Vista Family Center as a volunteer tutor as part of his sociology class requirement. The amazing thing about him was he got so engaged with those young people that he, being who he is, got them all involved with him. One of his inspiring quotes was, "None of us are as strong as all of us." He's survived by his parents and his 2 younger brothers. I was with one of his brothers and his parents last weekend, where the Mar Vista Family Center, in memorial to him, had a huge concert where hundreds of the kids from the neighborhood who have missed him came. And I'd like to quote from one of his last things he said. "My parents are from 2 different continents, a hemisphere apart, and I was born on a third, Africa. From the beginning, I have been blessed with a universal awareness. To this day, it remains very important to me to be aware of the world's past and today's current events. I'm an avid reader and a willing individual. Music is a major force in my life and is the primary means by which I express and empower myself to connect with others. Music also is the fundamental medium through which I intend to affect those things that matter immensely to me, from youth in our local communities to the world as a whole. Well, 31 years old, but he, you know, it isn't the length of time, it's the quality of life, and his impact on all of us was phenomenal. May he rest in peace. My second one, Mr. President, is Larry Springer. At 65, a West Hollywood businessman and activist who was at the forefront of many issues affecting the local gay community, died April 29th at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where he was awaiting a heart transplant. He had been in poor health for several years. In the mid-'80s, Springer was co-chair of the Municipal Elections Committee of Los Angeles, then one of the nation's most influential gay political groups. He was instrumental in the group's controversial stand in 1985, urging the owners of gay bathhouses to voluntarily shut down their operations because of the bath's possible role in spreading AIDS. Larry helped form a strong position. It was really, in terms of social responsibility, it was a pretty tough stance, says Steve Schulte, who used to be the mayor of West Hollywood, to me. As an insurance broker, Springer was an important force in opposing efforts to make it more difficult for people infected with AIDS to obtain insurance. He also helped put in place West Hollywood's first general liability policy, according to Bob Arthur, who was active in the city's early struggles. Springer was also treasurer of the successful No on 64 campaign, which fought the so-called LaRoche Initiative, a measure that sought to impose testing and job restrictions on people with AIDS. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Any other adjourning motions, colleagues? If not, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Have a very safe and good Memorial Day, everybody. We will next be in session this coming Tuesday, May 29th. Thank you all very much, and have a good weekend. This meeting is adjourned.